Welcome back to another UCL Fantasy deadline stream, this time out of Matchday 9. It's great to see so many of you here already. Let me know if there are any issues because YouTube is kind of flagging some problems. So if there are any issues, let me know down in the comment section below and in the live chat, of course. But let's get straight into everything you need to know for the Matchday 9 deadline. There has been a lot of updates actually over the last couple of days. I've covered most of them in my recent videos, but there are a few other tidbits that need to be discussed today. It looks like Carnesecchi could be out due to fever, and Rui Patricio, a 4 million goalkeeper, will take his place, and Lookman is definitively ruled out, it seems. But I'll cover all the updates you need to know throughout the course of this live stream, and hopefully we can go on for quite a while. But yeah, I'm just going to have a quick look first and see what you lot are saying in terms of any issues. On OBS, it's all good, but on YouTube, I'm not so sure if that's the case. But yeah, let me know in the live chat. Hopefully it's all running smoothly. So the first question or comment is posted here. My lineup: Kobel and Neuer in goal, Schlotterbeck, Hakimi, Kim Min-jae, Hien, and Gatti in defence, Dembele, Barcola, Adeyemi, Pulisic, and Musiala in midfield, and Guirassy, Kane, and Mbappe in attack. Solid squad. I'm a bit unsure about Adeyemi, and I'll talk about something very soon. There is one predicted lineup where he isn't in it, and Dortmund could switch formations as a result. As for Schlotterbeck, he's good for ball recoveries, but Borussia Dortmund have been terrible with 5 losses out of the last 8 games, so that's something I would flag towards you personally, but still pretty decent overall. And hopefully the chat overlay is all good here as well. So just give me a second. And then, yeah, hopefully this will run smoothly. So we've got a super chat already in the building. Thank you very much. Ray says, Gyökeres, Mbappe, Dembele, captain. Reinders, Elise, Barcola, Zappacosta. Hien, Hakimi, Kim Min-jae, Di Gregorio, Patricio, Carrere, Musiala, Kane. Let's hope for 85 plus. I think with that squad, you've got a decent chance. I actually really like it. And Gyökeres is back now from his injury. And they drew 1-1 against Porto over the weekend. So that's a massive boost there. He had a decent cameo, actually. Caused Porto some problems, but didn't get on the score sheet. I'm very happy with that squad. The only one I'm a bit unsure about is Reinders. I've never been a big fan of him, but he has produced some big returns in UCL Fantasy this season. But that's the only kind of nitpick I've got. Thank you to those that have been letting me know. So everything seems to be good so far regarding YouTube. FPL Onion says the same, so hopefully that is the case. It just says error, and that's something I've never seen before, and it says poor quality for the stream, so I don't know. Kind of a bit concerning to say the least, but as long as you lot are seeing it and there's no issues there, that is the most important thing. Like the video if you enjoy it, subscribe to the channel. We're getting very close towards 32,000. It might be ambitious, but we could possibly reach that milestone today. We are around 300 away from that milestone, and if not, we'll reach it fairly soon regardless, especially with the extra UCL Fantasy deadlines this season. Cylindra says, hey Dylan, okay, at least this is working. Is it okay to go for Elise instead of Musiala, and which two to take between Guirassy, Kane, one of Madrid attackers, and Kolomuani? Well, they're all good options up front, and I've said this quite a lot in my recent videos, but my favourites right now are Guirassy, Kane, and Vinicius. Now, Rodrigo is going massively under the radar, and in recent games against Man City, he was the one scoring the clutch goals. With your first question, you can go for Elise instead of Musiala, but one thing I found with Elise in recent games, he's playing really well, but not getting goal contributions, and that's very frustrating. I bought him in Matchday 8, and I would have been better off just starting Kimmich and not taking a hit for Elise, but yeah, I still think he's a good option, offers great value. If that's your way of upgrading elsewhere, then I think it's still reasonable, but Musiala is my preference. And is it worth tripling up on PSG? I think so. 3 or 4 players is definitely viable. Maybe 2 if you want to be a bit safer, but PSG have faced Brest twice this season, and their recent meeting was actually on the 1st of February, where PSG won 5-2, and Dembele scored a hat-trick, so that's why I'm very bullish on their players. If I'm being honest, I think Dembele, maybe another attacker, and Hakimi is the sweet spot. I've only got Donnarumma because I'm not a big fan of the other goalkeepers. With Borussia Dortmund being so terrible this season, I'm not too confident about investing in any of their defenders, particularly when they're facing Sporting away, for example. Matt says, too many striker options, can't get my head around it. Yes, in UCL Fantasy, that's always the case, but imagine we've only got 16 teams in this phase of the competition, with 8 of them qualifying to the next round, and yet we've got so many different options in the forward position, so it does make it more interesting, and there will be some variance. Bakayoko is a good option. I highlighted him in my team selection video towards the end with a differential section. If you want a PSV player, Bakayoko is my top recommendation. And in fact, Juventus and PSV faced each other back in Matchday 1, and Bakayoko got an assist. It was a late consolation goal for PSV, but I think Bakayoko is a solid choice. Would you prefer Elise, Foden, or any Atalanta midfielder? If Lookman was available, he'd be my favourite, but that's not the case, it seems, so I would go for Elise out of those three. Rui conundrum? Technically, because he will probably play in Matchday 9, but not in Matchday 10, with only 1 week between both matches, but it looks like Karnaseci is out due to a fever, so you'd probably guess from that kind of update that he will be available for Matchday 10, so it doesn't make it ideal for a goalkeeper pick. Thank you, John. Today's a great day to thank Dylan for his hard work by becoming a channel member. Thank you very much, John, and it's a pleasure to have you on board for a couple of years now. All your support has been massively appreciated, and thank you to everyone who's been watching. Sappacosta not playing. I haven't seen that update in particular. I will have a look myself, but let me know where you got it from, and I will check it out for sure. Poor quality on the Guna badge. Maybe remove it. Is it poor quality? Maybe you're just taking the piss because you hate Arsenal, but if you're actually being serious, then let me know. I will have a look. Yeah, Theo Hernandez is 1 yellow card away from suspension. True. It's not the end of the world if he does get it for Matchday 10, but look, just to kind of discuss some of the changes I've made from my team selection, essentially I've made 2 moves. So I've removed one of my Atalanta defenders to Theo Hernandez, who is sitting on my bench. He plays tomorrow, of course. And I've gone for Rui Patricio instead of Karnaseci. This is not locked in. I might still make a few changes. I'm tempted by Colomuani or a differential up front, and that might be at the hands of Garassi. Maybe Rodrigo as well is entering my thinking. And in the midfield, although there aren't many other midfielders I'm considering, Bakayoko is a nice differential, as rightfully mentioned by some viewers. There's also Elise and a few others. But yeah, this team is not 100% locked, but I'm quite happy with most of it, actually. Hey Dylan, if I have the money, should I pick Neuer? I think Kim Min-jae is enough Bayern Munich coverage, and I think Celtic could score, at least in the first leg. I do like Neuer for Matchday 10, but I don't know if he's that much better than Donnarumma. Perhaps he is, but I don't see a massive difference, actually. Arsenal band, sorry. No worries. It's just I've been very meticulous recently with the details in my videos, so, you know, if that was a genuine thing, I would have looked into it. Atalanta defenders for today? Well, they do play tomorrow, that's why they're on my bench, but I think Hean is my favourite because of ball recoveries. Sappacosta's got the assist for it, and I'll check if there's any updates about him. Atalanta have a lot of injury problems right now, like Kolasinac is ruled out. But yeah, I think 2 is enough. You could even go for 3. I think Atalanta have the best chance of a clean sheet in both match days 9 and 10, but specifically in this game week where a lot of the kind of decent fixtures like Bayern Munich against Celtic, they're away from home, so I could see Bayern conceding, for example. Best PSG defender other than Hakimi, William Pacho, 100%. 71 balls recovered this season, I think is a great option. Barcola or Kvaratskhelia? I'd go for Barcola. He's been very consistent with goal contributions, but in the last couple of games, basically ever since Kvaratskhelia joined PSG, he has scored and assisted already, so he's had a very good start in terms of GA. Let's see if he can do that in the Champions League, but I think Barcola is probably a little bit better in that particular metric. Hey Dylan, best 3 forwards? Well, the 3 you see on screen is what I personally think are the best 3 forwards right now. That might change during the course of this deadline stream, but looking beyond the fixture, which is always important to be fair, but I think Kane and Vinicius are the very best forwards in the game that are left in the competition in the next 2 rounds, basically. But yeah, I'm going for Garassi as well. He hasn't blanked this season in the Champions League. It looks like Karnaseci's not playing. I might as well get into that now, since there will be some questions about this fairly soon. And I'll go back to these screens at some point, but first off, let's go to the UCL Fantasy League. There is a league code in the description and an auto-join link. You click it and you automatically join, of course. The code is cCaFxb. We've got over 5,000 members, making it, I think, the biggest UCL Fantasy League in the world. As for Predict 6, I've gone for Brest 1 and PSG 3, and I've currently got the booster activated, which essentially is like captaining this prediction. I've put PSG to score first, Juventus 1, PSV 0, and of course Juventus scoring first. Man City 1, Real Madrid 2, which I'm a bit unsure about. That's a very tough game to call at the Etihad, but I do back Real Madrid to go through to the next round. Monaco 1, Benfica 2. Originally I went for a Monaco win, but I have changed that today actually. Celtic 1, Bayern Munich 2. I think it might be a bit tougher than people expect. And then Feyenoord 1, AC Milan 1. Those are my predictions at the moment, but I might make some changes for Predict 6. So these are some different stats and things to kind of bear in mind. I did mention this a lot in my recent videos, but Dembele has scored 13 goals in 7 games with PSG in 2025, the most of any player in Europe and across the world, actually. He's been in fantastic form, scoring braces and hat-tricks for fun. As for Real Madrid, there was this report yesterday that suggests that Ancelotti will go for Mendy and Fran Garcia as the fullbacks. A few days ago, there was this rumour that Valverde will play on the right-hand side as a right-back to replace the injured Lucas Vazquez and Dani Carvajal, but it looks like we could see Mendy on the right-hand side instead. And this is a predicted lineup according to Diario AS. Their only concern is Modric or Ceballos starting. They've gone for the rest. They're quite confident about the rest of the starting 11. So Courtois in goal, Mendy, Asensio, Tchouaméni and Valverde as the right back, with Camavinga, Bellingham, and then one of Modric or Ceballos, and then Rodrigo, Mbappe and Vinicius. There's definitely no concern about who's going to start up front, but a few issues potentially in terms of who starts on the right-hand side to fill in that Vazquez and Carvajal hole, and also in the midfield. Is it Modric or Ceballos, or perhaps does Valverde play in the midfield? That is another possibility. And these are another set of likely lineups for the same matchup, but I've also got Man City included in here. Ederson in goal, Gvardiol, Diaz, Stones and Akanji, with Gonzalez, Bernardo Silva, Foden, De Bruyne, Savio and Erling Haaland. And with this predicted lineup, they've basically gone for the exact same, and they've put Ceballos instead of Modric, so that's something to look out for. And Tchouaméni is 1 yellow card away from suspension, so if he picks up a booking against City tonight, that means he misses matchday 10, and Madrid might have to rush Rudiger back from his injury layoff, and that's the reason why is because they've got no one else in that position, so they're down to the bare bones there, Real Madrid, and both teams have been decimated by injuries this season. So this is the update I saw. It's a journalist from Italy, Alessandro Giovanni, but I'm not sure how reliable he is. But he does say Carnesecchi and Ruggeri absent due to fever today. Both of them will be out of the Atalanta versus Club Brugge game. So if that's the case, Rui Patricio is the next best option, of course, to replace him, and it gives you more funds in the bank for your UCL Fantasy team. But having said that, it does cause some problems for matchday 10, where Carnesecchi will likely return from his fever, and as a result, you might need to make a goalkeeper transfer, which is far from ideal, but I do think the Atalanta goalkeeper, whoever it is in goal, and it looks like it will be Rui Patricio, is the best option for matchdays 9 and 10. So with Brest and PSG, once the lineups are out, I'll be covering it on this channel. So around, let's say, an hour's time, I will be showing you what Brest and PSG are going for. And the last thing to consider is Sporting and Borussia Dortmund. So this is what Kicker say, and the journalist is Carlos Machado. So apparently they are predicting a 4-2-3-1 lineup for Dortmund, but it looks like Bayer could be in for Adeyemi, which opens up a potential tactical change to a 4-3-3 or even a back three. I think the super chat earlier by Ray did mention Adeyemi, so that's something to potentially look out for. I'd personally look away from Adeyemi, despite him scoring a hat-trick earlier this season in the Champions League. But if you're still really bullish on him and back him to start, don't let me discourage you, but I wanted to highlight that point because it might be very important come the time that Sporting play Borussia Dortmund later tonight. Let's now go back to my UCL Fantasy team for now, and once we get the lineups and I'll have a more clear opportunity or idea about my team, and I can start locking it in. But let's get into your questions. Hopefully I haven't missed anything. So yeah, all good there. Let's see what we can go through now. That's big news. I'm guessing that's in regards to, well, actually, I don't know. There's quite a few things I mentioned before, but maybe in terms of Real Madrid. I think Kvaratskhelia could be great too. He's not the greatest in terms of goal contributions, but he has been fairly decent with them in his PSG tenure so far, but it's a very small sample size. You could be right. He might be an amazing option for the next 2 match days, but I think history would suggest he'll be decent and he might be frustrating from time to time. I think I'm the only one with Mbappe. Maybe in this chat, you might be right, but there's a lot of people going for Mbappe, trust me. The press in Spain tells Fran Garcia is an option in defence. Exactly. It could be Garcia on the left and then Mendy on the right, or they stick with Valverde on the right and then stick with one of Ceballos or Modric in the midfield. Didn't Gonzalez go off injured during the FA Cup? Yeah, I know, because the lineup I just showed you did have Gonzalez in there. I think this was published, though, after the FA Cup game, so that should be fairly up to date. And it looks like Gonzalez's injury isn't too serious, but I need to double check that. Should I captain Barcola or Vinicius? From those two, I'd go for Vinicius, but I'm currently going for Dembele. Yeah, Dembele captain. Kim Min-jae might be rested, says Daddy DeVito. That wouldn't be great. One to look at potentially. Why no Kolo Muani from Juventus? Because you can only pick 3 forwards, mate. It's impossible to have everyone. I did mention towards the beginning of the stream that I'm looking at Kolo Muani as a potential differential, and PSV aren't the greatest defensively. Huilman can't play because of max yellow cards in the first leg, says João Martins. Best defender, 4.1 million or below, currently on Bellanova. I think that's probably the best. Yeah, at 4.1 million and below, I think he's the best one. Harry Kane or De Ketelaere? Harry Kane, but they're both good options. I don't think Lookman plays. Yeah, I need to double check though with the Lookman thing, because I haven't seen anything concrete in terms of him being definitively out. So once I see that, I can confirm to you one way or the other. Yeah, Pavlidis is a good option. There are so many different choices up front, but he is one of the most informed strikers in Europe. He scored a hat-trick against Barcelona, and he also followed that up with a decent return against Juventus, a goal and an assist. Pavlidis or Retegui? I'd favour Retegui because of the fixture, but he hasn't been able to translate that Serie A form into the Champions League. That's something I want to see from him first, but of course, scoring 4 goals this weekend against Hellas Verona, including a first-half hat-trick. I mean, he's bang in form, but so is Pavlidis, who has been really consistent for Benfica. Vinicius, Retegui or De Ketelaere? Overall, Vinicius is the best option. On paper, he's got the toughest fixture, but yeah, it's a close one. They're all great options. How many points will you need to stick and not twist the cane? I think with 8 points, I'd be fairly happy with that, and I probably won't switch because, as I mentioned before, I think Bayern Munich Celtic could be lower scoring, or at least Bayern won't run away with it, as you would maybe expect on paper. So I think 8 points is enough, maybe even 7. It all depends on the context. Haaland or Vinicius? Vinicius. Back in Juventus to score multiple? To be fair, though, they could score 1 or 2 goals, and Kolo Muani scores both of them, for example. So I get what you're saying, and this was one of the reasons why I didn't really consider Vlahovic earlier this season, but Kolo Muani's been brilliant for Juventus. 5 goals in 3 games, no blanks. I think he's a decent option. Yeah, Pavlidis I just covered. Adeyemi will play. Well, based on what Machado said, one of the journalists for Kicker, he isn't backing Adeyemi to start, so that's something to bear in mind. I personally don't think he will start, but I could be wrong. Alright, so yeah, just for those that are repeating the questions, try to be patient. Repeat questions will be skipped, and we want to cover as many different people and comments and topics as possible, so try to be mindful of that. As a Benfica fan, I wouldn't go Pavlidis. He is too inconsistent. Fair enough. It's good to see a perspective of a fan. It's just in recent weeks, I think he has been brilliant, but you could be right, of course. Maybe in terms of a larger sample size, he might start blanking and being quite frustrating, but Monaco are there for the taking. They lost 4-1 against PSG this weekend. Benfica have won 3 games in a row, but just before that, obviously Benfica dropped points somehow against Barcelona in that thriller, and then they lost to Casapia, and there was a lot of kind of hate directed to the manager Bruno Lage, but yeah, maybe you're right about that. I'm personally not going there, but he's a decent differential. Yeah, Kvaratskhelia should play tonight, but we'll cover that in the lineup section in an hour's time once they're fully confirmed. Vinicius or Mbappe? I prefer Vinicius. He's got more returns. I think he's got over 20 UCL fantasy points compared to Mbappe. Also 3 double-digit hauls, so that means 10 plus points in a single match day, whilst Mbappe has 0. Look, Mbappe scored against Atletico Madrid in that 1-1 draw, and he missed 4 big chances in matchday 8 against Brest, so you could argue a big return is coming in the Champions League, but I think Vinicius is better in this competition, at least during their time at Real Madrid together. What about Foden? He's not in the team right now, and Man City Real Madrid could be high scoring, so I don't mind a Phil Foden in there. He was in my best team that I published a few days ago, but you can't have them all, mate. I've currently got, a double up in the PSG midfield, and in terms of budget, I couldn't do Barcola to Foden. Otherwise, I maybe would consider it, but even then, I think PSG have got the better fixture. 2 Atalanta defenders for today, Hien and who else? Well, you say for today, they do play tomorrow, just to be very clear, so you want to bench them, perhaps, and then bring them on as substitutes, but I think the other one would be Zappacosta, with 3 assists in the Champions League this season, but Hien has got the most ball recoveries in that Atalanta defence. Another one to consider is Jamitsi, who got an assist this weekend, but ultimately I think it would be Sapakostas in second and Hien in first. Those are my favourites. Who's on penalties? Well, Vinicius is. That's what Carlo Ancelotti said a few weeks ago, and I did cover it in my UCL Fantasy video at the time, or a deadline stream. I did delve into that. Mbappe is second in line, and I think Bellingham is third. Rodrigo or Vinicius? I prefer Vinicius, but Rodrigo is a really good option, and he's also cheaper. That might allow you to go for Musial instead of Elise, for example, which might be a priority for you. I think they're both brilliant, and against Man City, I think Rodrigo is very, very close. He might even edge it, but in terms of UCL Fantasy overall, who would I rather own? My answer is Vinicius Jr. Possibly Alexandru, possibly, but you can't have them all. You could go for both of them, to be fair, but with all the other options in the forward line, I'd rather diversify it a little bit. I think Retegui might be a brilliant option. As covered before, 20 goals in Serie A, so he is the top scorer in that division, but he hasn't done it in the Champions League. He missed a penalty against Arsenal back in Matchday 1, and he has been quite frustrating from that perspective. Yeah, Gyökeres should start. I did show a predicted lineup just a few minutes ago, and as I mentioned in my recent videos and today, he did return from injury against Porto in a 1-1 draw. Christian says, Hola Dylan, saludos desde Panamá. ¿Qué opinas, Mbappe o Vinicius? Seguidor tuyo desde los inicios. Gracias, Christian. Para mí, Mbappe es un muy buen jugador, pero en la Champions no está rindiendo como Vinicius Jr. en este momento. Y Vinicius tiene más de 20 puntos comparado con Mbappe. Y muchas veces Vinicius te da más de 10 puntos en una jornada. Mientras tanto, Mbappe te da 5 o 6 puntos. Y a veces te dan nada. Y en contra Brest perdió 4 oportunidades claras. Y para mí Vinicius Jr. es mejor. Puede obtener más puntos en una jornada, pero ambos pueden tener oportunidades en contra City. Eso, it goes without saying, as we say in English, but sí, para mí sería Vinicius Jr. George says, hey Dylan, join the stream late. Will Carnesecchi start? I don't think so. I did show an update from a journalist from Italy. I'm not sure how reliable he is, but it looks like Ruggeri and Carnesecchi are both out due to fever. And if he is true, of course, then Rui Patricio will start between the sticks at 4 million. But I can't guarantee that will be the case for Matchday 10 as well, because Carnesecchi could be back by then. So I'm going to put the chat in slow-mo just to kind of control things a little bit. Okay, so yeah, now YouTube is not giving me that error message, which was so ominous earlier. We do have 700 people watching. Let's get the likes up to over 200 to begin, and then we'll look to get to 300 plus. That would be greatly appreciated. It costs nothing and boosts us up in the algorithm. And I do answer hundreds, sometimes even thousands of questions during a deadline stream. And all your Matchday 9 content, all the coverage you need is on this channel with the best team and the team selection videos as well. So let's see. Hopefully this doesn't do anything weird, but yeah, hopefully this does help. So try to be mindful and patient, and your questions will be answered. We still have a few hours until the deadline. Yeah, Kyle Walker, a new signing. It's probably worth mentioning all the kind of transfers and their prices in UCL Fantasy. I'll do that in a few minutes, but look, I'm not really a big fan of him. I'd rather go for Theo Hernandez, who's got more attacking potential, and it was Hernandez who played really well this weekend in a 2-0 win over Empoli. But Walker's fine. He's not a terrible option. I just prefer Hernandez. I wouldn't recommend that deleted user, but, I mean, there's always going to be people copying, and it is what it is, but, yeah. Is that Vinicius? He's not suspended. He was for Matchday 8, which I covered at the time. He is now back. If he's red flagged in your app, that's probably because you haven't updated the app, and sometimes UCL Fantasy themselves take really long to update things, but they did it yesterday with all the transfers, suspensions, and flags. So if you're still getting a red flag for Vinicius, that means your app isn't updated. Jorge Mota says, hello Dylan, thanks for the amazing content as always. Kudos from Portugal. Thank you very much. Kind words from you. Let me know who you support. Maybe you are a Sporting, Benfica, or Porto fan, and of course all of them in the Champions League, at least in the case of Benfica and Sporting right now. You think Di Gregorio starts? Yeah, I do. But of course, in Matchday 8, it was Perrin taking the mantle instead. Gittins was very disappointing for me. He blanked in 3 consecutive games in the Champions League, but he has been very consistent in the Bundesliga for his age. DJ Syker says, perfect team forwards and midfields no budget limit. Well, I'd urge you to check out my best team and the team selection, but look, in my opinion, the midfielders and forwards I've got right now is the best one. I mean, I'm not going to go for something different for the sake of it. I could be wrong about one or two picks because ultimately UCL Fantasy and all these fantasy games come down to fine margins at times with 50-50 calls. But I think something like Dembele, Barcola, Bellingham, Musiala, and then, yeah, I'd say Pulisic, Kane, Vinicius, and Garassi. That's close to what you can get to the very best team, actually. That's what I'd say personally. You might disagree, and we can talk about that, but that's the way I look at it. Yeah, Schlotterbeck good for ball recoveries, but Borussia Dortmund are terrible right now. They're 11th in the Bundesliga. They've got 5 losses out of the last 8 matches. They lost 2-1 this weekend against Stuttgart at home. It's not looking good at the moment, but he is the best way to cover them defensively. Retegui, Kane, Garassi, what do you think? I have money. Yeah, it's a solid forward line. You know, you're not going to find me kind of saying anyone's forward line is bad, because I think every team essentially in the Champions League has a good striker or forward option. You know, for Benfica, you've got Pavlidis and Di Maria. For Atalanta, you've got Retegui and De Ketelaere. There are so many choices, so I do like it. I'm just not that... I don't think Retegui's reliable in the Champions League, but he's got 20 goals in Serie A this season. Hopefully he can translate that into the Champions League this time. As covered before Zubin, it would be William Pacho. 71 balls recovered. That's been already analysed. Barcola, Kvaratskhelia or Foden. I'm currently going for Barcola. If I had the funds, I would consider Foden to have a bit of Man City coverage. But yeah, Kvaratskhelia, 7.5 million. He scored in the last game against Monaco. Got an assist on his debut for PSG. But in terms of goals and assists over the years, he has been quite inconsistent. Garassi or Haaland? I'd say Garassi personally, but Haaland is facing a depleted Real Madrid side at the back. I think there'll be goals in that game, so you can't go wrong with De Bruyne, Haaland and Foden. Anyone else not having a fixture showing up on their players? I have players that have a fixture. App is up to date. Are you on Android or Apple? I'm just wondering. I think in my end is fine. I might double check in a little bit. But before I do, because I did mention the new players and prices, I wanted to talk about that very briefly. So, Colomwani is 7.1 million, and he's also a forward. He was, of course, available for PSG during the league phase. We've also got Daniel Marlin, who has gone to Aston Villa, but he wasn't included in the Champions League squad, but he has been added to the UCL Fantasy game. Marco Asensio is 6.7 million. He is, of course, in that... he is in that Champions League Fantasy squad for Aston Villa. Santiago Jimenez made that switch from Feyenoord to AC Milan, and now they're facing each other for a spot in the round of 16. He is 6.5 million, and in the case of Asensio, 6.7 million price tag. Then Biref, who has gone to Monaco, he is a 5.6 million forward. Buendia, who has gone to Leverkusen, that's one to look at for the knockout stages. He is 5.6 million. Then we've got Posh, who has joined Atalanta, 5.5 million, and then Kyle Walker, a 5.2 million defender. So maybe one to look at for yourselves. But yeah, those are the key transfers there. Then Kvaratskhelia, a 7.5 million midfielder for Paris Saint-Germain. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, if I'm not mistaken. No, there's a few more. There's a lot of transfers that have happened. There's also Marcus Rashford, 6.5 million. There's Sassy, 4.5 million. Garcia, who is a 4 million defender. Of course, that is more so for the knockout stages. We've also got Lloyd Kelly for Juventus and Vega, both of them at 4.5 million. Chuba Akpom at 5.5 for Lille. Hermoso at 4.5 million for Leverkusen. Then we've got Marmoush, Gonzalez and Kusanov for Manchester City, with the latter being 4 million. Then we've got Gonzalez at 6 and Marmoush at 8. Joao Felix and Bondo. So Felix is 8 million and Bondo's 5 million. Malacia, and I'm not even going to try bother, but another PSV signing. So Malacia is 4.5 and the other one is 5 million. Kvaratskhelia, as I mentioned before, was covered. Then we've got Musrati, a 5 million option there for Monaco. Maldini for Atalanta, 5 million. And anyone else? Urbig from Bayern Munich, 4 million. For Benfica, Belotti, Bruma, Silva, Dahl, and Rego, all at varying price points. And then for Brest, we've got Burgout, Bosin, and Targelin. And then more options for Borussia Dortmund, Chukwuemeka, oh Jesus, some of these names. Ostrasinski and Svensson. And then for Celtic, Jota and Schlupp. For Feyenoord, Moda. For Inter Milan, Zalewaski. But of course, a lot of these options I mentioned are for clubs that have qualified for the next round. We don't need to worry about them now, but just kind of worth mentioning them briefly in that segment. What about Gyökeres, says Luis. he's still a solid option. And I'm not against him. I think against that Dortmund defense, he could do really well. So there are so many good options up front. It's impossible to kind of definitively say this is the best front three. It can go either way, ultimately. Yeah, good to see you, Jose. Kvaratskhelia from PSG. He's done fairly well since joining them, but he's not the most consistent with goals and assists during his, well, entire career, actually, especially at Napoli. But yeah, he's a good option. I just prefer Barcola, and Dembele goes without saying. He's the best PSG attacker. Hola, Dylan. Olise o Musiala out por Foden o De Bruyne? Prefiero Musiala antes que Olise. Y yo diría Foden es mejor que De Bruyne. Así que Musiala y Foden, para mí es ideal en tu medio campo. Raul Asensio in? No, I wouldn't recommend Raul Asensio or any Real Madrid defender. You could make a case for Courtois because of the limited options on Tuesday between the sticks, and he can also make many saves, but I wouldn't go for any of the defenders there. Haaland to score 2 goals tonight? Possible. Dylan, where do you check whether injured players are playing or not? Well, I use various websites, but I also, a lot of the time what I do is I go to their recent lineups, I check some of the games, sometimes even watch them if I've got the time, and then I can see for myself who is available, who's missing, and the suspensions. There are other websites as well. So on Twitter, I can get my information, SofaScore, and also I think there's a website called Sports Gambler, which can be very useful in determining, you know, which players are suspended and a few things that could catch you off guard. Foden or Bellingham? Bellingham for me. Now, for Matchday 9, with City having the home advantage, it might go the other way, but across both legs, I prefer Bellingham. Gyökeres or Guirassy? I'm going for Guirassy right now, but they're both excellent choices. Hey Dylan, best 7-point family midfielder? I think Olise's up there. Barcola. Pulisic. That would be my preference, to be fair. I think the overall best is probably Pulisic for me. Vinicius, Mbappe, Haaland pick 2. Vinicius and Haaland, diversify your attack a little bit. That's probably what I'd recommend. I speak Spanish at home, but I still think my English is much better. Go for Colomwani? Maybe, but yeah, I've already got 3 good forwards. It's not like I'm getting rid of an absolute twat in that position. Christian says, ¿qué opinas de Schlotterbeck? Bueno para recuperar la pelota, así que te da puntos por eso, pero Borussia Dortmund perdió 5 de los últimos 8 partidos y en este fin de semana perdieron 2-1 contra Stuttgart de local, así que para mí Schlotterbeck es una buena opción, pero Borussia Dortmund está en un mal momento y prefiero ir por otros defensores como de Atalanta, Juventus y Paris Saint-Germain. Pavlidis or Guirassy? Well, Guirassy's in my team, so that probably answers it. They're both good options, though. Dylan, dudo con la gente del Atlanta. Porteros, Zappacosta y Lookman jugarán. Sí, con Zappacosta no sé de dónde salió esto, que está lesionado o no sé qué. Para mí va a jugar. Con Lookman parece que no está disponible, así que él no va a jugar. Y Carnesecchi tiene un fiebre, así que parece que Rui Patricio va a empezar. Y es un portero de 4 millones, así que en este momento estoy yendo por Rui Patricio. Gyökeres or Kane? I would go for Harry Kane, and you can also see that based on the answers here. Well, look, mate, I'm trying my best to answer questions, and spamming from some people doesn't help, mate. I don't see Bellingham performing tonight offensively. In solid games, he plays more defensive roles, not contributing much in counter-attacks. Fair enough, but Bellingham has been very consistent with goal contributions throughout his entire time at Real Madrid, and Man City are terrible defensively. Maybe in this particular matchup, Bellingham is not the one scoring. It might be Rodrigo, Mbappe, Vinicius, or maybe somebody else like Valverde, but I still think he's a good option. Donnarumma and Hernandez or Pacho and Courtois? I would go for Donnarumma and Hernandez, which is also what I've gone for myself. Barcola or Kvaratskhelia if both start? Barcola. Yeah, Gyökeres is fit. Why not bring Gyökeres and then switch him to Guirassy next game week? Because you only get 2 free transfers for match day 10. I've got the wildcard in my back pocket, so it allows me to be more aggressive this week, potentially. But at the same time, I'm looking at maybe saving the wildcard for later in the season, if possible, and being aggressive in future rounds of the competition. And with these 2 matches, I just think booking in a transfer already by doing Gyökeres to Guirassy, I mean, it could go wrong either way, and maybe they both score in the away games and not at home. So it's a good idea what you're saying, and it has crossed my mind, but I don't think it's that simple. Barcola, Kvaratskhelia, that's been covered. Do you think Cohn or Majecki start for Monaco, assuming the former? Yeah, I agree with you, but to be honest with Monaco, they're not really of interest to me. They've been in poor form. They lost 4-1 against PSG, and in the Champions League, they faltered in recent match days, so I'm not really looking at them. Well, I think so, Luca. That's why I've gone for it, but there could be a few tweaks to be made before the deadline, and it also depends on the lineups we get between PSG and Brest and a few other factors, maybe some updates in terms of other teams as well. ¿Será buena idea poner a Hakimi de capitán? Sí, para mí es una buena idea, pero PSG tiene un buen récord contra Brest. 9 victorias, un empate y 0 derrotas, pero también en los últimos 6 partidos PSG no obtuvo una valla invicta contra Brest, pero con Hakimi tienes la potencial de un gol, asistencia y recuperaciones del balón, pero sí, Dembele para mí es el mejor para poner como capitán del Paris Saint-Germain. Guerreiro or Kim Min-jae? Kim Min-jae. Although someone else earlier said that Kim Min-jae could be rested, I'm not sure where that's coming from, but maybe there is something to it. So let me see if I can find some of these updates on Twitter, because what often happens during these streams is that updates happen whilst I'm talking. So I'm going to have a look myself and see if there's anything that has been released over the last few hours. But yeah, with Sappacosta, a lot of people are asking if he's out. I don't think he is, but I'm going to have another look and see if I can find anything concrete, which would be ideal, especially with the goalkeeper situation, Carnesecchi and Rui Patricio. It looks like Carnesecchi is out due to fever, and if that's the case, I'll be going for Rui Patricio as the replacement. So let's see if I can get that update. There's literally nothing on Sappacosta. Yeah, and unfortunately with Atalanta, they haven't actually uploaded their squad, which a lot of clubs do, a day or two before they travel, or at least a day or two before their game, and that hasn't been the case here, which is far from ideal, let's put it that way. But hopefully we can get some clarity before the deadline with a lot of these squads, especially Atalanta, who will be of massive interest against Club Brugge. So yeah, thank you to those that have liked the video. Let's try to get this up to 300 plus, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're getting very close towards 32,000 as a new milestone. Why is the app not updated? You might not have updated the app yourself, but these players should have been added by now. I'm pretty sure they all were yesterday, actually, and all the flag players and stuff were also updated yesterday. Sappacosta or Gatti? In isolation, I'd probably say Sappacosta, but I'm going for 2 Bruges defensive coverage anyway, so a goalkeeper and Hien. So from my perspective, I'm going for Gatti to kind of diversify things a little bit, but in isolation, I prefer Sappacosta, although there are some kind of concerns about him. Irish BVB says, Dylan, a very reliable source, Mia Samia, has stated one of Upamecano or Kim Min-jae will be rested. I think it will be Kim, so I'm getting Guerreiro instead. I appreciate the update. It's just with Guerreiro, for example, would it not be the case that he could be benched for matchday 10? I'm not saying it will happen, but it is a possibility. But I do appreciate that. I'm going to have a look myself. I have seen that page before, and they have been quite reliable over the years. I think they collate all the information themselves, but let's see if I can get their Twitter page. So I think you put it there. So Mia, Mia Samia. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've seen this page before. Now, they have posted a picture 60 minutes ago, and Kim Min-jae has travelled. That doesn't mean he's going to play, though. Maybe he doesn't. Let's see if I can find that exact tweet. Yeah. Okay, let me bring it up now. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. That's massively appreciated. A long-time viewer of this channel as well. So yeah, company is considering resting Kim Min-jae or Upamecano against Celtic tomorrow, and that's according to Kessler Philip and Mano Bonke. Or Bonk. Let's see if anyone... I mean, look, you're looking at replies. Do they know anything? Probably not, but yeah, maybe Kim Min-jae does get the rest. That could mean another change in my UCL Fantasy team. So definitely want to look at. All right. Yeah, Reinders, I'm not a big fan of him. He's not a bad option, but I think there are better elsewhere. Yeah, Pulisic is better than Reinders. Yeah, Gyökeres should start. Thank you, Singer. Yeah, Guerrero could be benched in the second leg, unfortunately. Davis is back in individual training. That's what I mean. So maybe that could add credence to going for Neuer as your Tuesday goalkeeper and then going for William Bacho. Yeah, I mean, that's something that's crossing my mind now, actually. Yeah. So yeah, I do appreciate the update. It's very much appreciated. I don't think Lookman will play, but there hasn't been anything concrete. I covered the latest update about him, which was from a few days ago after they beat Hellas Verona 5-0, and Gasperini, the Atalanta manager, did state that Lookman is unlikely going to play on Wednesday. That's what he said at the time, if I'm not mistaken, but I also translated the page from Italian to English, and sometimes Google Translate can be a bit finicky. Luis says, Dylan, ¿qué opinas de doble ataque de Real Madrid con Mbappé y Vinicius sacando a Kane? Mira, no me molesta mucho porque en ese partido creo que va a haber muchos goles, pero a la misma vez me gusta diferenciar los tres atacantes. Entonces, Harry Kane, uno de Vinicius o Mbappé, o quizás Rodrigo, y después Gerassi o lo que sea, puede ser Colomuani, estaría muy bien. Y también si tienes a Bellingham ya en el mediocampo, no sé si yendo por 2 o 3 atacantes del Real Madrid sería un poquito mucho. Pero mira, Mbappé y Vinicius pueden hacer goles en la jornada 9 y 10 contra City con todos sus problemas defensivamente. Así que no es una mala idea, pero para mí y mi preferencia es ir por algo un poquito distinto. Rodrigo or Mbappé and Gittins or Bellingham. I'd actually go for Rodrigo this week over Mbappé, but there's not much in it. Gittins or Bellingham, Bellingham. Después de estas fechas, ¿tendremos otro transfer unlimited? Sí, para la jornada 11. Así que para la jornada 10, que viene después de esto, tienes 2 transferencias y luego tienes unlimited transfers, transferencias sin límites. Time to off Zappacosta. If you have got an update, let me know. Drop it in the live chat with a link or something, but I'm not sure if Zappacosta is unavailable, to be honest. Colomuani is a good option, FP Oliver, but you just can't have them all, right? But he hasn't blanked for Juventus this season. Of course, only 3 games, but 5 goals to mark a very strong start to his Juventus career. So I think he's a decent choice. Captaining Barcola from PSG, all the best. I hope it goes well. I think that's a very solid choice. Feyenoord just sucked their manager. More Milan picks, Jimenez maybe. Sometimes it could go the other way, though, where it causes a manager bounce, even with an interim. We've seen it before with Man United this season. They sacked Ten Hag, and with Ruud van Nistelrooy as the interim, they got a massive bounce, manager bounce. Last year with Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace, and across Europe there are so many other examples. So I'm not so sure if that will be a guarantee of Jimenez, Pulisic, Rafael Leao, Hernandez doing well. It might boost their chances, but it all depends on the interim and what kind of reaction you get from Feyenoord. I think, yeah, 1 or 2 Milan players is fine, maybe even 3, but I wouldn't go overboard with them. I still think Feyenoord could win the first leg at least. There's space in my lineup apart from the front line. Well, you might get a lot of a strong template building because we've only got 16 teams to pick from, 8 matches compared to all the teams we had early in the competition. And yeah, it's going to be something similar for the knockout stages, but I'd still be quite hopeful overall. Elise or Musiala? For me, Musiala, and that's why he's in my team, but they're both good options. Bayern have Ito back from injury and travelling as well as Dyer and Stanisic available. Kim Min-jae was rested in training after the weekend's game. Good shout regarding Neuer. Thank you, Irish BVB. Yeah, you're right about the injury updates there. I did see that Ito was back, but I wasn't aware about Dyer and Stanisic, so I do appreciate it. That's probably the best way to do it. If you still want that Bayern Munich coverage defensively, you just go for Neuer, and then you can go for William Bacho, and you basically essentially got the same structure, double PSG defense if you want, and then 1 Bayern defensive coverage, but you're just going about it in a different way. Sí, Raccoon, es verdad. ¿Zappacosta si juega o no? Creo que sí, pero no te puedo decir definitivamente, porque no sé todavía. Di Maria, decent option. I would maybe go for Pavlidis instead, though. Lookman, I think, will be out. Zappacosta ain't on FootMob's predicted lineup. I've been talked about this. Someone has mentioned FootMob before when kind of determining whether we should go for a player or not. I mean, look, they can sometimes have a pretty decent sense of who's going to start or not, but it's not gospel, and they could be wrong about it. I'm not sure about Sapper-Costa. I haven't seen any updates about him personally, so that's why I can't really say one way or the other if he's going to start or not. Kvaratskhelia or Barcola? Barcola, which is why he's in my team. Rodrigo or De Ketelaere? That is close. I'd maybe lean towards De Ketelaere here. Because he's playing today, I don't mind keeping him in, says Bran. Is this in regards to... Just wondering which player you're talking about there. Sí, 4 jugadores del PSG. Es lo que tengo yo en este momento. Así que en vez de Pacho, yo tengo a Donnarumma. Sí, creo que 2 o 3 está muy bien. Y 4 sí está muy confiado que va a ganar PSG. Así que está bien. William Pacho recupera el balón muy bien. Así que siempre te da puntos. Hakimi, Dembele y Barcola te pueden dar goles y asistencias. Así que me gusta mucho. Gyökeres and Gittins or Guirassy and Kvaratskhelia? Guirassy and Kvaratskhelia for me. Dembele or Muani captain? Dembele. Yeah, Colin Muani's been on fire. I did mention him towards the end of the last video and a few times today. So if I were to go a bit different in the forward line, I might replace Guirassy with Colin Muani. I just know that if I don't go for Guirassy, he will score again and continue that amazing record in the Champions League of not blanking. But if I go for him, he's probably going to blank again. I say blank again. He'll probably blank for the first time this season. Guirassy or Jimenez, says MMK. Guirassy for me. Guirassy or Pavlidis? Guirassy for me. Foden, good option, but I'm just going in a different direction right now. I'm going for Guirassy here again, so yeah. Look, I might switch him to Colin Muani. That is a possibility. I think Maignan is a better option than the keeper you have for tomorrow. I disagree respectfully. The only issue with either Carnesecchi or Rui Patricio is that we don't have clarity in that position. And if Carnesecchi is unavailable for Matchday 9, he could be back for the following game, and as a result, you might need to make a goalkeeper transfer. But if it wasn't for that, I think there is no doubt in my mind that the Atalanta goalkeeper is better. Eres una puta bestia, Dylan. Gracias por los consejos. Thank you, Roy. Massively appreciate. Gracias. De Ketelaere or Rodrigo? Yeah, De Ketelaere. Rodrigo or Vinicius, choose one. The one I've got in my team. I'm not going to say, oh, you know what? Yeah, go for Rodrigo, mate, and I'm going to pick Vinicius. Having said that, Rodrigo is a brilliant option. There are very fine margins between both of them, but I just prefer Vinicius. Kobo or Donnarumma? Donnarumma. Esteban says Colin Muani or Guirassy? I'm going for Guirassy right now. And for this one, Christian, Guirassy. ¿Y quién puede ser una buena opción para cambiar a Kim Min-jae? William Pacho. Y después puedes cambiar a Donnarumma a Manuel Neuer, por ejemplo. Pero también no sé tu equipo, así que es difícil decir. Pavlidis, Kane and De Ketelaere up front. Thoughts? Strong front line. You've got some differentials in there. Yeah, I don't have many issues with it. It's just there are so many forwards that you can go for. Gyökeres, Haaland, Mbappe, Rodrigo, Vinicius. I mean, you just can't fit them all into one team, unfortunately. But what you've got is strong. Hey, Dylan, Mbappe or Kane? Harry Kane. Davis is an individual training, as mentioned before by Irish BVB. So he could be available for Matchday 10. Now, that is obviously just nothing set in stone, but it is a possibility to bear in mind. Kim Min-jae to Neuer and Maignan to Theo Hernandez. What do you think about it? Yeah, I like that sort of move. I'm looking at doing something similar, actually, of going for Neuer to replace Kim Min-jae as my Bayern Munich defensive coverage, and then going for William Pacho, and I can get rid of Donnarumma that way. Let's actually show you, since I've been on the screen for quite some time here. So let's go to the transfer section, and let's do a bit of chopping and changing here. So let's put Manuel Neuer, and let's also get rid of Kim Min-jae. So that means 15 changes from my league phase team, because Kim Min-jae was the sole survivor from Matchdays 1 to 8, who was carried into Matchday 9, but there is the possibility he's rested, either him or Upamecano, according to reliable reports. So as a result, I'm getting rid of that risk, and yeah, I'm going to go for something a bit different. William Pacho is my current preference, so I've got that double up in PSG defensively. Pacho for the ball recoveries, 71 for the season, and Hakimi for the goal threat and the assist potential. Theo Hernandez, Hien, and Gatti complete this defensive line. This isn't locked in. I could still make a tweak or so, but I look at Sporting, Borussia Dortmund. I think my favourite defender from those teams would be Schlotterbeck, but Dortmund have been terrible defensively, and have an away trip first, so I don't see them keeping a clean sheet, so I probably won't go there. Other Bayern Munich defenders, maybe Guerreiro, but is he locked in for match days 9 and 10? I'm not so sure about that. I'm not going to go from Kim Min-jae to Upamecano. So I think in this case, it's best for me to go for Manuel Neuer and cover things this way. It also gives me more money in the bank, 0.6 million, so I could theoretically do Barcola to Kvaratskhelia, although I'm not too keen on that particular sort of move. And then Guirassy to Kolomuani is a possibility for me, although Kolomuani hasn't been great in the Champions League this season, only 4 points, but of course very limited minutes for Paris Saint-Germain during the league phase, and Guirassy hasn't blanked so far this season, so that would be a risk, but considering the recent form, that could be a decent shout as well, and it gives me even more money in the bank to spend on other areas, but that's the possible changes, or those are the possible changes I could make before the deadline. Let's see. I don't know why the YouTube super chat thing bugs out with the goal. We have hit 2 out of 10 already, but yeah. Neuer and Rui Patricio both play tomorrow. Yeah, you are correct. That is a possible issue. Let me, I don't know why this has gone like that. Give me a second. Oh. Alright, let me change that. Okay, so yeah, like I said, these are some possible changes. This isn't locked in. Now, I think what I'd end up doing actually, because as you say, they do play on different days, sorry, on the same day. I think that would then give me the opportunity to go for another Atalanta defender like Gimitsi or Sappacosta. So I'll go for Gimitsi for now. And then avoid the Carnesecchi Rui Patricio headache, although it will be difficult to afford because Rui Patricio is 4 million. Getting rid of him could be a bit of a problem, especially with Donnarumma and Manuel Neuer. It does leave me short of funds. So yeah, that is something to look out for. So I'm not going to lock in anything yet. I'm going to see the PSG lineup first and also Brest one, and then I can make a final decision. But yeah, I am looking at potentially covering Bayern Munich in a different sort of way with Manuel Neuer because of the potential rotation of Kim Min-jae. We'll go back to this very soon, but for now, I'll leave it there hanging whilst I deliberate on what to do. But the main focus, of course, will be your questions. Why not Retegui at all? Because you can only pick 3 forwards, mate. There's so many different forwards I'm not having in my team right now, like Kolomuani, Rodrigo, Mbappe, Haaland, etc. Gyökeres. You can't have them all. I do like Kolomuani and Retegui as an option, but at the same time, has Retegui done in the Champions League this season? No. Neuer and Patricio play on the same day? Yeah, thank you. What do you think of a triple up in the midfield of Kvaratskhelia, Dembele and Barcola? I think that's overkill, personally. I think 2 is enough, and I'm already not uneasy, but I think that's probably the limit for me. I don't like tripling up on any midfield, even if PSG have the best fixture this week from an offensive perspective. I think 2 is enough. Mbappe, Annalise, or Jude and Guirassy? Yeah, look, they're both good duos, but I'd go for Jude Bellingham and Guirassy. Is Kolomuani more nailed than Vlahovic? I think he is now, ever since joining Juventus. I wouldn't go for Weah personally, but if you're feeling it, back your gut, I would just rather go for Kolomuani. Di Gregorio is fine, I guess. I mean, he was a bit of a troll for me in the league phase. And that could be another way of cheaping out in that position. So I can go for Di Gregorio as my Tuesday goalkeeper, and that gives me the funds to go for Neuer tomorrow. So it will cross my mind, and I might end up doing it, but I'm just not a big fan. Elise or Bellingham? I think Bellingham. I think there won't be lots of clean sheets, at least in the first leg. Yeah, I don't really expect many, myself, to be fair. Why not Nuno Mendes over Baccio? He's more expensive for one, and there's also the ball recovery potential by William Baccio. But on the other side, Nuno has more attacking threat, so they're both good choices, but Hakimi's already there for the assist and the goal threat. So I think Baccio for the ball recoveries is a solid choice. It's up to you who you go for. I prefer William Baccio. UEFA update that Sappacosta is out. Thank you. I'll have a look myself. Especially with these foreign leagues and different kind of clubs, it's difficult sometimes to see the exact updates sometimes, even when I look through all these different pages. But yeah, I'll have a look now and see what they're saying. Yeah, there's also the predicted lineups. Hopefully they've got that available, UEFA.com. Let's see if I can get that. Yeah, I can't find it right now. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Possible lineups and team news. So updated on the 11th of February. Let's go through this together. This will answer a lot of questions as well. And yeah, shortly we will get the PSG Brest lineups. I'm not going to cover those predicted lineups because, yeah, we're going to get that in literally 15, 20 minutes time. So let's start off with Brest PSG we can ignore. Juventus PSV. So they're going for Di Gregorio, Weah, Gatti, Vega, Savona, Locatelli, Douglas Luiz, Gonzalez, McKennie, Yildiz, and Colomuani. For PSV, they've gone for Benitez, Mauro Jr., Boscagli, Flamingo, Malacia, Veerman, Schuiten, Bakayoko, Till, Lang, and De Jong. In terms of players who are ruled out, for Juventus is Bremer, Cabal, Kalulu, Milik, and Cambiasso. No doubtful players and potential suspension risks, so one more yellow and they miss the next match. That is Francisco Conceição and Koopmeiners. For PSV, the players who are out are Tillman, Pepe, Karsdorp, and the possible suspensions are Mario Jr., Karsdorp, and Veerman. For Man City versus Real Madrid, and by the way, these aren't fully locked in. These are good predictions. UEFA.com do a great job in terms of kind of nailing some of these on, but they're not always going to get it 11 out of 11 correct, so just bear that in mind. For Man City, they've gone for Ederson, Mateus Nunes, Akanji, Diaz, Gvardiol, Kovacic, Savio, De Bruyne, Foden, Bernardo Silva, and Haaland. The players who are out are Rodri and Oscar Bob. Doubtful players include Ake, Doku, and Gonzalez. And the possible suspension risk is Ruben Diaz. For Real Madrid, Courtois, Valverde, Asensio, Tchouaméni, Mendy, Camavinga, Ceballos, Rodrigo, Bellingham, Vinicius, and Mbappe. The players who are ruled out are Carvajal, Alaba, Rudiger, Militao, and Vasquez. And the possible suspension risks are Bellingham, Camavinga, Endrick, Militao, Modric, Rudiger, and Tchouaméni. That's a very extensive list to say the least. As for Sporting versus Borussia Dortmund, the final game of the Tuesday matches, they've gone for Rui Silva in goal, so not Franco Israel, and that has been the case in recent weeks for Sporting. Fresneda, Diomande, Gonzalo Inacio, Mateus Reis, Cuenda, João Simões, Morita, Araujo, Gyökeres, and Francisco Trincao. As for the players who are out, Højlund is suspended, Pedro Gonçalves, Nuno Santos, and Catalmo are all ruled out due to injury, and possible suspension risks are Araujo, De Bast, and Cuenda. For Borussia Dortmund, they're going for Kobel, Ryerson, Anton, Schlotterbeck, Svensson, Emre Can, Gross, Adeyemi, Brandt, Gittins, and Gerassi. Bensabani and Nemetcha are ruled out, and those that could be missing the next game if they get booked are Beyer, Kuto, and Ryerson. So for the Wednesday matches, and of course the early kickoff tomorrow will be very interesting to say the least, they've gone for Mignolet, Seyss, Orduños, Micheli, De Cooper, Onyedika, Jashari, Vanaken, Talbi, Dzolus, Jukla, and no players are out. No one is doubtful as well, but the likes of Seyss, Skoras, and Vetlesen will miss the next match if they are booked. As for Atalanta, Rui Patricio, Posch, Hien, Jimitsi, Bellanova, De Roon, Ederson, Ruggeri, Pasalic, Decatelare, and Retegui is their predicted 11. But as I mentioned earlier, there was a journalist from Italy, I think he's called Giovanni, who said that Ruggeri and Carnesecchi are both out due to a fever. So maybe Ruggeri won't start there. The players who are out for Atalanta include Kusunu, Lukman, Maldini, Scalvini, Scamacca, and the doubtful players include Carnesecchi and Kolasinac. So they don't have Zappacosta there in terms of in their starting 11, and he's also not in the ruled out section. So that's something to bear in mind according to UEFA.com. Ederson is the only suspension risk for Atalanta. Monaco versus Benfica. They're going for Majeki, Enrique, Salisu, Carrere, Vanderson, Sakaria, Al-Musrati, Golovin, Minamino, Akaluche, and Biref. As for the players who are out, Mawisa, Balogun, Diop, and Singo. The doubtful players include Kamara and... yeah, I'll let you decide that one. As for those who can miss the next match, Kamara, Vanderson, Carrere, and Sakaria. For Benfica, they're going for Trubin, Carreras, Otamendi, Araujo, Antonio Silva, Kokcu, Florentino, Arsunes, Schlurderup, Pavlidis, and Aktokoglu. As for the players who are out, Bar, who I think suffered the injury this weekend actually, Silva, Sanchez, and Guvia are all out. Di Maria is doubtful due to a muscular problem. Those that could miss the next game include Arsunis, Bar, Kokchu, Florentino, and Otamendi. Celtic versus Bayern Munich, as we approach the final few possible lineups. They've gone for Schmeichel, Johnston, Carter Vickers, Trusty, Taylor, Engels, McGregor, Hatate, Kun, Maeda, who scored a hat-trick this weekend, and Jota. No one is missing for Celtic, but there are a few doubtful players, including Schmeichel with a back problem, and Bernardo. And Johnston will miss the next match if booked. For Bayern Munich, they're going for Neuer, Lima, Upamecano, and Kim Min-jae, but as I mentioned before, reports from Germany indicate that one of those centre-backs will be rotated, and that's why I'm looking to get rid of Kim Min-jae potentially. Guerreiro, Kimmich, Pavlovic, Elise, Musiala, Sane, Kane is the rest of the starting 11. Peretz is out with a kidney problem. The doubtful players include Davis, Gnabry, Ito, and Paulinho, but some of these players are coming back, like Ito, and Davis is back in individual training already. And if Gnabry and Sane get booked, they miss the next match. And finally, Feyenoord versus AC Milan. They're going for Willem Rufer in goal, Reed, Bilen, Hanko, Small, Moda, Hwang, Timber, Haj Musa, Carranza, and Igor Paixão for that Feyenoord starting 11, with Bülow out with a knee problem. He was the hero against Bayern Munich back in Matchday 7. Stings, doesn't it? Zerouki, Trauner, and Uwikup all out, and Hwang is doubtful. The likes of Osman and Trauner will miss the next match if they get a yellow card. As for AC Milan, Maignan in goal, Walker, Tomori, Pavlovic, and Hernandez, Pulisic, Fofana, Reinders, Rafael Leao, João Felix, and Jimenez. The players who are out for AC Milan include Musa, Emerson, Loftus-Cheek, and Florenzi. And if the likes of Chukwueze, Fofana, or Hernandez get booked, they will miss the next match. And as I talked about all those possible lineups in the later games today and tomorrow, let's see if PSG and Brest have the lineups confirmed. They do. So we'll cover them now. For PSG, they've gone for Donnarumma in goal, Hakimi, Marquinhos, William Bacho, and Nuno Mendes. They have gotten the sides wrong, so Hakimi should be on the right, Nuno Mendes on the left. They'll probably update that soon. They've gone for João Neves, Vitinha, and Fabian Ruiz in the midfield, with Barcola, Dembele, and Doué in the forward line. Kvaratskhelia is on the bench. He is not starting. I'll also go through Brest lineup quickly. So Bizot, Lala. You know what? You can read it yourself. There you go. I don't think anyone's going for any Brest players personally, but with PSG, this is the bench. Safonov, Tenas, Kimpembe, Kvaratskhelia, Gonzalo Ramos, Lee, Hernandez, Mayulu, and Lucas Beraldo. So yeah, Kvaratskhelia on the bench. Do not go for him. Could he come off the bench and score or assist? Yeah, he could, but I'd rather go for Dembele and Barcola. That all but seals my PSG offensive double up if I were to go there. Dembele playing down the middle, yeah, he's in my team. I'm just going to say that now. He's probably going to be my captain too, but play it your way. You might feel that Vinicius is a better captain or Rodrigo, or you might want to go against Dembele yourself, but I do recommend him this match day. He's been in brilliant form. He's arguably the most informed forward across Europe right now. And he has scored 5 goals against Brest this season, including a hat-trick only 10 days ago. So a lot of signs point towards a haul. Can Dembele deliver? Find out after the break. But let's go to my UCL Fantasy team. And in a little while, I'll start kind of tinkering a little bit and we'll finalize this squad. Like the video if you haven't already. We've got over 1,000 people watching. Let's get the likes up to 300 plus. I have covered hundreds of questions already, and there will be even more covered in the next hour or so. And be sure to tune into my FPL and UCL Fantasy videos coming up. Tomorrow there'll be the best wildcard team for Double Gimmick 25. Also the team selection there on the Thursday, and a Friday deadline stream in FPL, and more UCL Fantasy content for the next deadline, which is in a week's time. So I'll be back here this time next week with another UCL Fantasy deadline stream. And in the interim, there will be a team selection and a best team video, potentially split into 2 with a limitless and wildcard. Let me know what you prefer there. But let's get back into your comments and see what is up. So, let's see. I'm going to try to cover some different ones. So yeah, thank you, Surendra and Luca. Yeah, Vinicius is on penalties. That was confirmed by Ancelotti a few weeks ago. Now, sometimes players decide themselves on the pitch, so you could see Mbappe take one or Bellingham, but Vinicius is first choice. Well, Guerrero has high odds to score assists because he's a very attacking fullback. And if he does start, a lot of these odds do project that, or they don't factor in the chances of starting. So all of it is assuming if these players start. That's why he's so high up. Sabacosta to Pacho? Yeah, I'm looking at something similar myself, although Sabacosta was in my UCL Fantasy team selection video. I have gotten rid of him already, but I might go for William Pacho myself to replace Kim Min-jae. Bakayoko or Kimmich? Bakayoko. Choosing a lineup for this match day has been the hardest because of the options available. You could be right. I mean, you could say it's easy to build a strong team, but there are some 50-50 calls that could go either way. And yeah, from that perspective, it can be quite difficult. PSG have only kept 4 clean sheets across all competitions in the last 15 matches. Yeah, and as I said in Spanish earlier in this stream, they haven't kept a single clean sheet against Brest in the last 6 meetings, actually, despite winning 9 of them and also drawing 1 of the last 10. But with Hakimi as the attacking potential, and William Pacho is there for the ball recoveries. He's got 71 of them this season. But yeah, that's why, despite the bookmakers having PSG top of the clean sheet odds, I'm not that bullish on them keeping one, if you know what I mean. Speaking of which, let's go through that very quickly for those that maybe didn't see the team selection video yesterday. So this is the clean sheet odds. PSG are top with 42%. Juventus, Bayern Munich, Atalanta and Sporting complete the top 5. There might have been some minor changes in the last couple of days since I obviously had this picture. And if you want to see the full lists on a weekly basis, check out UCL_Fantasy on Twitter. They do post these, and also the goal scorer odds, which might be very interesting to you in determining your best captains on each day and your transfers and overall players. So let's actually show you here as well, because Erling Haaland is top with almost a 50% chance of scoring. Vlahovic, Gyökeres, Mbappe and Jimenez complete that top 5, and the rest of the top 15 have the likes of Retegui, Barcola, Vinicius, Guirassy and Dembele. But I have to say, yeah, this is all assuming these players start, which is, it kind of goes without saying. I'm not sure if Vlahovic does start. In fact, a lot of the lineups I've seen do have Kolo Muani starting up front instead. So, yeah, obviously that would reduce Vlahovic's chance of scoring massively if that was the case. But those are the goal scorer odds, and that was pretty much up to date until Monday, basically. So be sure to check it out as well. And let's now go to my team selection portion of the video. This is the graphics that I showed you during the team selection podcast the other day. So as I speak, you'll see all of these things. If you don't know how I did in Matchday 8, it wasn't too shabby. Sommer kept the clean sheet for me. All of that jazz. The defensive line was brilliant, which was delved into in detail. The midfield, though, Wirtz and Rafinha did the business. Elise and Gittins very disappointing. The front line, though, was just so poor. Mbappe missed 4 big chances. Alvarez got an assist but was subbed off for 60 minutes. And Haaland blanked against Club Brugge. And these are some of my transfers, of course, which you would have seen in my team selection portion and also in most of this deadline stream today. So Harry Kane and Vinicius Jr. are not locked in my team, but they're very likely going to be in my final squad. There are so many different forwards to choose from, and they've all been covered to death. I don't think you can go wrong ultimately, but with the swings and the outcome bias, sometimes you will be kicking yourself depending on what happens. But essentially, the starting 11 is very similar to what you've seen before. I've currently got Kim Min-jae in there, but he could be one of my possible replacements throughout the course of this deadline stream. So that's something I am looking at doing. Dembele will be my first captain on the Tuesday, and if needed, Harry Kane will be the backup tomorrow. But once again, it all depends on my final setup. If I decide to go for a different forward instead of Harry Kane, it will be a different Wednesday captain, of course. That goes without saying. And Rui Patricio is currently my Wednesday goalkeeper, but it could end up being Manuel Neuer instead, and then going for Di Gregorio as my cheap option, but this time on the Tuesday instead. So let's go back to my UCL Fantasy team. All of that pretty much shows you everything you need to know in terms of transfers, how I did in Matchday 8, and also some of the moves I've made already. But Kim Min-jae is on the chopping block based on those reports we got over the last day or so. Good to see you, Paredes. Let me just get your message up. Hola, Dylan. Explain why you're going Pulisic. Well, he has been quite good in the Champions League this season. He scored against Liverpool back in Matchday 1. He also got 2 assists off the bench this weekend in a 2-0 win for AC Milan. And I think AC Milan will score a few goals. And if we actually look at the opponent, so Feyenoord have the worst defense of any team left in the competition. They've conceded the most goals with 21, and even compared to some eliminated teams, only the likes of Dynamo Zagreb, Young Boys, and those that finished right at the bottom like Bratislava conceded more goals than Feyenoord. So I think it's a good opponent to kind of target with attackers, and that's why I've currently got Theo Hernandez and Pulisic in my team. The likes of Rafael Leao and Jimenez are decent options. I would favour Jimenez because he's facing his former club. He should play down the middle, and he scored just like Rafael Leao this weekend, despite coming off the bench. But I just think Jimenez would be a better option, and he's also even cheaper. But Pulisic is my favourite AC Milan attacker. Marius says, still going for Jude with the suspension threat. Well, there's a few suspension threats I've got at the moment. He is one of them. It's obviously not ideal, and it's impossible to say what kind of game it will be. Will it just be a high-quality game with a lot of goals? Will there be some feistiness to it? They have played each other so many times in recent years. But, yeah, look, it's a risk having Bellingham. Theo Hernandez is another one who could be suspended with one more booking. But ultimately, I want to pick the best players in UCL Fantasy. I think Bellingham is one of them. For this game in particular, away from home against Man City, you could argue other midfielders are better. For example, Pulisic, the two PSG midfielders here, Barcola and Dembele, Musiala, Elise, etc. But I'm still going for him at the moment. I don't think I'll change it based on that reason alone, but I might find something else I like, and I could always buy Bellingham in matchday 10 or just kind of avoid him for the next two and just bring him in for the knockout stages should Real Madrid go through. But it's definitely something to bear in mind, but you can't base your decision solely off that. If you're in a position where you've got multiple suspension risks, like 5 or 6, you might want to get rid of 1 or 2 of them, to be fair. But in my case, I don't have that many, so it's not playing a big part in my thinking. Yeah, I get that, Goldhead. I was quite settled on my defensive line, actually. It was only the, let's say, the goalkeeper, Carnesecchi, Rui Patricio, somebody else, maybe my forwards, where I'm kind of looking at making changes. But because of one possible change that I had to make, so Rui Patricio in for Carnesecchi, that causes a domino effect where I go for Manuel Neuer maybe as my Tuesday goalkeeper and avoid the Atalanta situation there. And then I cover Atalanta defensively in a different way with 2 defenders instead in Hien and maybe Jimitsi, for example. So it's interesting for sure. Yeah, para mí Santiago Jiménez es una buena opción. Está jugando contra su equipo anterior y también Feyenoord tiene un récord muy mala defensivamente, así que para mí es una buena opción. Pero también tienes a Kolomuani, Gerasi, Gyökeres, Kane, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Haaland. Hay tantas opciones, así que no es tan fácil elegir uno y no cambiarlo. City Printers, either him or Vitinha. Hey Dylan, should I get Rodrigo or Mbappe? I prefer Rodrigo based on the matchup. He's got a great record against Man City. Porque para mí, en los dos partidos, yo creo que Madrid va a ganar contra Man City y Bellingham está jugando muy bien en los últimos meses y también a la misma vez Foden está jugando bien y haciendo goles en los últimos partidos, pero a veces en los momentos importantes Foden no aparece como Bellingham, pero mira, es una opinión. Quizás Foden hace el gol hoy y Bellingham hace nada, pero también considerando jornada 10, cuando van a jugar en la Bernabéu, yo creo que Bellingham puede anotar un gol ahí y obtener más puntos que Phil Foden. Goalkeeper's a tough one, as no standouts. Yeah, well, I think the Atalanta goalkeeper, whoever it is, and it looks like it will be Rui Patricio, is the standout. The problem is, what about matchday 10? Will it be the other way around, where Carnesecchi will play again once he returns from his fever? So that's the problem. I'm not a big fan of Donnarumma, to be honest. I think with PSG, the best way of covering them defensively are Hakimi and William Baccio. Some might even point towards Nuno Mendes as well. Yeah, Sappacosta is a doubt, it looks like. He isn't in the predicted lineups I've seen, like UEFA.com. If you want, rewind the stream and see it again. But yeah, in that section, he wasn't in the doubtful or out section. So maybe just rested. That could be it. Pavlidis or Retegui? Retegui. Neuer is expensive. I might make future moves a bit more difficult. True, but like I said, if I go for Neuer, I'd likely go for Di Gregorio on the Tuesday, so I kind of balance it out anyway. So compare that to Donnarumma and Rui Patricio, for example. There's 0.2 million separating both duos, if not 0.3 million. So that's not too shabby. And also, Matchday 11 isn't a problem. You get unlimited transfers and you'll make wholesale changes for the round of 16. Kim Min-jae could start, but there are reports indicating that one of Kim Min-jae or Upamecano will be benched. I want to avoid that risk, and that's why Kim Min-jae might be axed from my team. Mbappe and Hernandez or Vinicius and Gatti? Vinicius and Gatti for me, but both are very solid. Thoughts on Joao Felix? I wouldn't go there personally. If you want an AC Milan attacker, Pulisic, Santiago Jimenez and Rafael Leao would be the top 3 in order. Joao Felix has a lot of quality and he can produce moments of magic, but he is also very inconsistent, and I think the others would be even better. What about Di Gregorio? Just mentioned him. If you want a Tuesday goalkeeper who's cheap, he's the best one by far. In terms of goalkeepers overall, I mean, look, I've been burned by him this season, so there could be a bit of bias there, but yeah, I think he's one of the better options on the Tuesday, let's put it that way. Yeah, thoughts on Walker? As covered before, I'd rather go for Hernandez, but he's not a bad shout. Hey Dylan, Guirassy and Vinicius or Haaland and Retegui? I prefer Guirassy and Vinicius. They're both solid duos though. Si pones a Neuer, el presupuesto te sube y tendrías que sacar a un medio, me imagino, cuál sacas y cuál metes. No necesariamente, así que yo puedo cambiar a Donnarumma por Di Gregorio, por ejemplo. Te puedo mostrar ahora. Así que, let's go to... Así que puedo hacer algo así. Di Gregorio, otra vez en mi equipo, un troll de UCL Fantasy. Y mira, acá, si quiero cambiar a Gatti, puedo poner a... En este caso, yo... ¿Quién pondría? Juventus... No. Kimi, Jimitsi, Hien... I mean, puedo mantener a Gatti, no es un problema, pero... Sí, yo tengo el dinero, no es un gran problema. Si yo quiero Neuer y Donnarumma, ahí sí es mucho dinero para 2 arqueros. Y ahí no me gusta mucho hacer cosas así. Pero el problema con Atalanta es que ambos arqueros, puedes tener a Rui Patricio jugando ahora contra el Club Brugge de visitante, y para la jornada 10 va a ser Carnesecchi, que va a volver de su fiebre. Así que no es muy claro y tampoco es ideal esta situación, pero sí, con Manuel Neuer, si yo voy por él, voy a sacar a Donnarumma y ir por otro defensor de PSG, quizás puedo ir por William Pacho, por ejemplo, o si quiero poner 2 defensores de Juventus, puedo poner a Di Gregorio y Gatti. So, yeah, just for those that are obviously tuning in English, wondering what the hell is going on, basically there is this debate about going for Manuel Neuer, it will just be too expensive and also cause problems for future moves. And I completely get that point. But what I'm saying is, if I were to go for Manuel Neuer on the Wednesday to, 1, get rid of my Atalanta goalkeeper issues of Carnesecchi playing in Matchday 10 and Rui Patricio playing in Matchday 9, which is possible, I just go for Manuel Neuer. And I also can get rid of Kim Min-jae and still cover Bayern Munich defensively, because like I said, there is that rumour of one of Kim Min-jae or Upamecano being benched and rested in Matchday 9. So if I were to go for Neuer, I can then just pick a cheap goalkeeper on the Tuesday like Di Gregorio, the infamous troll of UCL Fantasy, and that gives me enough funds to then still have a very solid squad. And in fact, if you really compare it, Donnarumma is, 0.1 million cheaper than Manuel Neuer, and Rui Patricio is 0.2 million cheaper than Di Gregorio. So we're talking about a 0.3 million difference. For me, that's not too big. Now, do I want this troll in my team again? Not necessarily, but, you know, taking my bias aside, it's not a terrible option to have on the Tuesday, assuming that he does start. So I can then double up on Juventus defensively if I wish, or stick with PSG defense and that double up by going for William Pacho, who is a ball recovery machine. And basically, I've got the same structure, but I'm covering Bayern Munich defensively with a goalkeeper instead of a defender, and the same goes for Juventus with Di Gregorio instead of Gatti. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat, but yeah, there are some big decisions to make until the deadline, but ultimately some very minute calls. I think they're very small, fine margins, but it can go the other way. Julio Peña says, hey Dylan, I'm currently on Di Gregorio and Rui Patricio as my goalkeepers. Would you change it? I do have 2.4 million in the bank just in case I need to upgrade. Thanks. So yeah, look, I'm kind of a good segue from the segment I was just talking about, because ultimately, they're both good options, especially for their price, but Rui Patricio is a bit of an issue because if Carnesecchi is back by Matchday 10, he's going to start, and it's a fever problem, it looks like, which is ruling him out of Matchday 9. So you're going to have a case of Rui Patricio playing now, which is fine, but what about match day 10? And you might need to make a goalkeeper transfer, or you might want to give you that ability to make goalkeeper substitutions. So in this case, I'd get rid of one of these and maybe upgrade them. So either Rui Patricio to Manuel Neuer or Di Gregorio to Donnarumma, for example. And on the face of it, I'll be honest, I think I'd rather do Rui Patricio to Manuel Neuer. And you can also get rid of Kim Min-jae if you've got him in your team, of course, because he could be benched. And look, there could be a scenario where Kim Min-jae starts and he gets a massive haul. That's always a possibility in UCL Fantasy. But with the information we've got, with that likelihood of a rotation there, that's something you could maybe counteract by going for Manuel Neuer in goal. So let me know your thoughts, Julio Peña. Hopefully that does help others watching as well who will have a similar situation with their goalkeepers. Yeah, the thing is worth saying, as covered before by some people, Davis is back in individual training, and will Guerrero start match days 9 and 10? I'm not convinced about that. Can't confirm my team when my budget is at 0. Says not enough funds. Your budget's at 0. I'm not sure how that's the case, mate. So, are you in the transfer section and it says you literally got 0 million in the bank? I'm not sure how that works. No City is crazy. Well, have you seen Man City this season, mate? I mean, look, I think having one player would be ideal, particularly an attacker, but I'm not going to recommend a goalkeeper. The defenders as well. Yeah, I personally wouldn't do that. Gatti or Kyle Walker? Gatti. Upamecano, though? That's the thing. One of Upamecano or Kim Min-jae will be rested. I'm not going to switch from one to the other and then find out the one I sold is the one who actually starts. So, look, that's just a massive risk I'd rather avoid. Who'd you prefer, Gatti or Jamitsi? I mean, in isolation, it's probably Jamitsi. But then again, if you got two Atalanta defenders or the goalkeeper already, it all depends on that context. But in isolation, I'd say Jamitsi. Vinicius or De Ketelaere? Vinicius, but they're both good options. Yet Colomwani should start. And if you want to see all the predicted lineups according to UEFA.com, check out the website or rewind the stream, because there was a dedicated segment covering all the lineups, including the PSG Brest ones, which are official. Kvaratskhelia is benched for those that still have him. I'd be looking to sell. Evening, Dylan. Mbappe and Vinicius double up overkill. I was asked this in Spanish towards the beginning of the stream. I think one's enough, and I'd rather diversify the attack a little bit. So, look, you could argue and say, well, you've got Bellingham and Vinicius, but when you have 3 forward slots and you've got so many good options, to have 2 of them occupied by the same team, I'd personally suggest something a bit different and diversifying it a little bit more. Theo or Gatti? In isolation, I'd probably say Gatti. Better chance of a clean sheet. I don't think so, mate. I don't think Haaland's a must. And, I mean, look at his returns recently. I had him in match day 8. He was terrible. Look, Haaland's got an amazing Champions League record. I think it's 47 goals in 47 games. It's scintillating, but I don't think it's a must-have. Not with all the other options you've got in other areas, but you know, you would back him to score. But I'd also back the likes of Gyökeres, Guirassy, Vinicius, Rodrigo to score as well. So you just can't have them all. Araujo's a decent choice, but not near the top of my priority list, to be fair. Foden is my favourite Man City attacker right now, so if you really want that City coverage, I think Foden is the best way to go about it. I prefer Pulisic over Foden, though, in this case there, Peter. Dortmund versus Sporting. What about it? How many minutes do you think Vlahovic takes off Muani? Depends on game state as well. But maybe around 20-30 minutes, or if they're chasing a lead or want to score another goal, they might add Vlahovic alongside Colomwani. So I don't think that's too much of an issue, but I see why you're asking it. Vinicius or Mbappe? The one I've got in my teammate. I'm going to say Vinicius, but they're both good choices. I don't think Zappacosta is ruled out, but there is a chance he doesn't start. I'm not sure exactly why that is. It might just be rest. If there are any Atalanta fans in the chat, that'd be great. Maybe you've got inside knowledge on this. Why Guirassy over Colomwani or Gyökeres? He hasn't blanked this season. He's also, when I say not this season, in the Champions League, he's been very consistent. And look, you just can't have them all. And someone else said earlier, why don't you just go for Gyökeres first and then switch to Guirassy in matchday 10, because you only get 2 free transfers for matchday 10. And do I want to use the wild card necessarily next week? Not really, but I've got that option just in case. So for this question by Avidan, Rodrigo or Vinicius? I would say Vinicius still, but Rodrigo's got a great record against Man City. You can't go wrong there. I would say Gatti over Hernandez. Retegui or Pavlidis? I'd lean towards Retegui, but he has been quite poor in the Champions League. Yeah, Santiago Jimenez, El Bebote. Facing his former club, and Feyenoord have one of the worst defensive records across any team. That includes the eliminated clubs as well. Only 3 or 4 teams, I think, consider more goals than Feyenoord in the league phase. And amongst those that are still left in the competition, they have conceded the most. So it's definitely a good fixture. Facing his former club, I think we have something to, more motivation to score. So it's a good choice, but I'm not going there. Adeyemi, Sane, or Elise? From those 3, it'd be Elise. Close one, but I would favour Barcola right now. Retegui or Pavlidis, that's been covered. Gittins or Elise? Elise. Who would be the best captain on Tuesday or Wednesday? On Tuesday, it's Dembele and a Madrid attacker for me. You might point towards Foden, Haaland, that's fair enough, but that would be my preference. On the Wednesday, I would say Harry Kane is my favourite, but it's not that simple as well. Now, if you've got an Atalanta attacker like De Ketelaere or Retegui, you might want to take a punt there. For AC Milan, Pulisic is a very solid choice against the worst defence left in the Champions League. But my current plan is to captain Dembele and Harry Kane. That could change though. I think with Harry Kane, I might go against him tomorrow if needed. But yeah, that would probably be on Pulisic if I were to go a bit different. Kanaseci's in the squad. Thank you, Johnny. Yeah, this might just be a headache I completely avoid, but I did say this in my team selection video. If Kanaseci is in the squad, I would back him to start over Rui Patricio. According to Transfer Market, Kanaseci is out until the March the 5th. Is Patricio the best pairing to Di Gregorio now? Top 3 goalkeeper pairs in your opinion? I'm not a big fan of the goalkeeper pairings, mate, but look, as someone just mentioned now, if Kanaseci is in the squad, I'd probably avoid Rui Patricio and maybe just go for a different goalkeeper altogether. So I think you'd be looking at Di Gregorio and Neuer as one solid pairing. You might also look at Donnarumma and either Rui Patricio or Kanaseci as another goalkeeper pairing, which was my ideal pick going into Matchday 9. The other one, I mean, it could just be a combination of both, right? But that's kind of what I'd look towards in terms of goalkeeper pairings. But I don't think Di Gregorio and, in your case, Rui Patricio necessarily is the best pairing, because for Matchday 10, you could see Kanaseci start over Rui Patricio anyway, and it might even happen now if that news is true and Kanaseci's in the squad. So let me check that now, because if that's the case, I will be looking to make some moves now and just sort my team out as soon as possible. Let's see if I can get this news. Going to be a big if, though. I'll have to say that. If you do have a link to that Atalanta squad, drop it in the live chat. That would be greatly appreciated. Oh, no. Is that like a picture of both of them? Oh, they're taking the piss, aren't they, Atalanta? No way did they do that. Oh, my God. I need to double check this. Well, Rui Patricio is in the squad, of course. That was always going to happen. But what about Kanaseci? Yeah, he's... Okay, here we go. This is the squad list. Very, very good that they've posted it before the deadline. So, Toloi, Hien, Posh, Sulemana, Cuadrado, Pasalic, Edison, Darun, Bellanova, De Ketelaere, Jamitsi, Smarjic, Casa, Palestra, Rui Patricio, Kanaseci, Rossi, Retegui, Bresciani, Vlahovic, Del Lungo, and Zappacosta all in the squad. So that answers quite a lot of questions here in terms of, is Kanaseci in or out? He is in the squad. I think he'll start if he's feeling well enough. Zappacosta isn't injured, so if he doesn't start, it will probably be just for a rest, basically. If you want to avoid that sort of risk and still cover them defensively, I'd recommend Hien and Jamitsi. I think that's probably the best way to go about it, but that is the squad list. Thank you to those that mentioned that the Atalanta squad is out. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen it, basically, so that is massively appreciated. He's been shown in the squad list as per Atalanta in the no account. Yeah, thank you, FPL Rohits. Is there another one? Yeah, that's all covered. I'm really tempted to go Kanaseci anyway, not going to lie. Yeah, same here. Same here. Let's actually go to the transfer section for me personally and see what I could do here. So, interesting times ahead. Let's put it that way. So maybe stick with Gatti. I stick with Donnarumma. 15 points this season is pretty terrible, to be fair. Carnesecchi, who is flagged, of course. I do back him to start tomorrow. But I think what I might end up doing here, yeah, I think I might just go for Di Gregorio. I love pain, don't I? I think I'm going to go for something like this. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Maybe it's a sign. Don't buy this guy in. But Di Gregorio in, and then Gatti out for William Baccio. Because at least with PSG, if they concede, I think Baccio can get some ball recovery points. With Donnarumma, he doesn't really have a high ceiling. So, yeah, that isn't too shabby. Let's see. Transfers. Yeah. All right, there we go. Okay, so yeah, these are some possible changes for me. So it would be Carnesecchi in again, this time for Rui Patricio, Di Gregorio replacing Donnarumma, and then William Baccio for Gatti, and going for Gimitsi as well. But then again, I think with this one, yeah, I'm not too sure about tripling up on Atalanta that way. Nah. I think, yeah, that's something that's going to be up in the air for me until the deadline. But yeah, Neuer, and then maybe here I can go for Gimitsi. That would be a decent play. Now, if I saw some news saying Sappacosta starts, I think he would take the place of Gimitsi. So that's something else I would consider as well. Hey Dylan, Haaland and Jude, or Foden and Vinicius? Foden and Vinicius for me, but both of them are great duos. Yeah, Martin, I mean, look, it's not the end of the world. I think Celtic could score at Celtic Park, but going to the Allianz, that's where I think Bayern could keep a clean sheet. So I would like a Bayern Munich defender or defensive coverage, but it's not absolutely essential. Big Mike in goals. I mean, I've got Hernandez already, right? But yeah, he's got a decent ceiling for a goalkeeper. He is a bit injury prone, but that's another one to maybe entertain as well. So I could do Hernandez out to another Bayern defender, essentially, if I wanted to. Because this is the sort of structure I'm trying to aim for. So 2 Atalanta defensive coverage, maybe even 3. 1 or 2 PSG defense, an AC Milan, a Bayern Munich, and a Juventus. That's kind of what I'm building towards, at least for Matchday 9. So that is the way I'm looking at it. Schlotterbeck is an outside consideration, but Dortmund's form is just too poor. Manana's shot save potential among all the clean sheet doubts. Yeah, you can get 7 points if they do keep a clean sheet, or maybe 3 or 4 points. No, Kane is not essential. He is a great option, arguably the best forward in the game for Matchday 9 and 10, but not so sure. Milan sucks at clean sheets. While I understand your thought process due to Feyenoord's weak defence, I did think Theo is your only weak choice in your lineup. Well, Theo was only brought in today, basically, after the team selection video yesterday, and it's kind of a way of diversifying my defence a little bit more, because I basically got rid of a third Atalanta defensive coverage to go to Theo Hernandez, which I don't think is a terrible shout, but I do get your point. I mean, Theo Hernandez hasn't really delivered this season. He got 5 points once, and every other time 2 or 3 points. It's not good enough. I don't think AC Milan keep a clean sheet in Matchday 9, but they could do in the return leg for Matchday 10. Kim Min-jae or Theo? Well, if Kim Min-jae starts, he's undoubtedly the better option, but as I mentioned before a few times, one of Kim Min-jae or Upamecano will be rested, according to reliable journalists in Germany. Yeah, if you got Neuer, I'd go for Theo Hernandez, I think, or a different option entirely. Julio Peña says, if I go Rui Patricio to Neuer, then who would I go for from Kim Min-jae? I'm currently on Hakimi, Gatti, Hien, Schlotterbeck as my other defenders. Well, you could go for Baccio because of the ball recoveries, basically, and PSG are top of the clean sheet odds, which I covered earlier and in yesterday's team selection video. So that's one option for you to consider. You could still go for another team entirely, but I'm not going to back Feyenoord defensively. Definitely not. PSV, it's an option, but I probably wouldn't go there. Sporting, not really feeling it. So yeah, I'd probably say either another Bayern Munich defender, but in that case, do you go from Kim Min-jae to Upamecano? I don't think that's really worth it. You maybe go for Guerrero, which works for Matchday 9. Does he start in Matchday 10? That is just not a guarantee. So in your case, I'd say either an Atalanta defender like Gimitsi, or I would go for William Baccio from Paris Saint-Germain. Also, Feyenoord did just sell their star forward, so I don't mind going Magnan, as I already have 4 Bayern players. Yeah, look, I might end up going for it myself. It's not like I think, wow, AC Milan are brilliant defensively. And Feyenoord have a lot of issues, but particularly at the back, not necessarily offensively, but they have lost, as you say, their star striker, and that could take a while to adjust to. But yeah, it's interesting times ahead. I mean, this new phase in Champions League football, we've got so many options despite only having 8 games and 16 opponents and teams to really choose from, but we still got so many different choices, especially in the forward line. Like I just mentioned with Guerrero, Andre, he could play Matchday 9, but is he going to start Matchday 10? It's possible, but I can't guarantee it, and that could be a transfer waiting to happen, or he just disappoints you in Matchday 10. Yeah, I think you asked this before, Jaden, I did cover it, but with Guerrero, he hasn't blanked this season in the Champions League. He's been very consistent, and you only get 2 transfers in Matchday 10, so I don't want to book in too many moves, and over both legs, I prefer Guerrero. It's as simple as that. Foden or Bellingham, over both legs, I think Bellingham is better. Bellanova as a differential second Atalanta defender, yeah, and he's also very cheap. Retegui hasn't travelled, has Kim Min-jae for Bayern. That isn't true, mate. I don't think that's true. I did cover the squad just now. Retegui has travelled. Yeah. That was confirmed at 4:23 p.m. UK time. So basically 40 minutes ago, 39 minutes ago, he is in the squad. Bellingham, Elise or Foden. Bellingham is my favourite, but I can understand why some people are a bit hesitant about him. Josine Otamendi got 17 ball recoveries last time he played Monaco. Yeah, he was also highlighted towards the end of my team selection video in the differential section. And over the years, Otamendi has been a very good UCL Fantasy option. There was one time where Grimaldo was at Benfica, and I went for both Otamendi and Grimaldo in my team, and they both did very well. There was that season where they had a great Champions League group stage campaign. So, yeah. The only problem with Otamendi is he's got one more yellow, he's 1 yellow card away from suspension. That's the only downside. Why did you remove Karnasecki? I was AFK. I mean, I can't really tell you everything word for word, move for move, why I did something 30 minutes ago or something, or 10 minutes ago, but it's just a different way of covering Atalanta defensively. Karnasecki is in the squad. He has travelled. I think he'll start, but there is still a slight doubt in my mind that it could be Rui Patricio if Karnasecki is feeling under the weather, because he has been suffering from a fever recently, which is why he missed the 5-0 win over Hellas Verona. Kim Min-jae is not out. He has travelled to Celtic Park. The problem is, one of Kim Min-jae or Upamecano will be benched according to reliable sources. I would go Sporting to beat Dortmund, but neither have been quite themselves. Yeah, in the first leg, I think Sporting would be the favourites. But yeah, once again, I am considering Colomwani for Guerrero. But let's not forget, Guerrero hasn't blanked this season. So in the Champions League, he's been very consistent. Decathlare over Kane. Not for me, but Decathlare is a great option. Do you really think Madrid got it without any proper defenders? It's Real Madrid, mate. I mean, they've won this competition so many times. I think 15, 16, I've lost count at this point. And Man City have got defensive issues of their own. They've got a more solid defence now on paper with Diaz and Stones potentially at centre-back, Akanji, and they could go for Mateus Nunes, but I think Madrid can get at them. Retegui, Colomwani, Pavlidis, or Kane, Haaland, Mbappe? It'd be the latter. Kane, Haaland, Mbappe. Thoughts on Trubin? Another solid goalkeeper, I guess, but I think Monaco score, especially in the first leg. Top differential in the midfield? Yeah, I think Igor Paxel could be a decent one against AC Milan. I mean, look, a lot of the options I have discussed actually have low ownership, believe it or not. The kind of popular ones like Bellingham and stuff like that will have really high ownership, but let's not forget Dembele. He currently has now 12% ownership, to be fair, but it was 7% at the time that I recorded my videos a couple of days ago. Pulisic, 6%. Yeah, I think Pulisic is my favourite differential midfielder. That's the one I'd probably recommend. Jamitsi, I don't think has issues, mate. It seems like Atalanta get another injury concern or problem every day. But Zappacosta isn't injured. Both of them are travelling. That has been confirmed by Atalanta. Yeah, 5-minute deadline warning. Yes, lock in your teams. Adeyemi or Barcola? Barcola. I'm not even sure Adeyemi starts. Leao and Vinicius or Mbappe and Leao? Basically, your question is Mbappe or Vinicius, right? I'd go for Vinicius. Rui Patricio or Perrin? Rui Patricio. I don't think Perrin starts. Best buy and defender? For Matchday 9, Guerrero. I'm not sure if he starts in Matchday 10 as well. William Pacho has 71 ball recoveries, mate. And as I covered before, because this question has been asked as well, I've got Hakimi already for the attacking threat. So I don't need to go for Nuno Mendes as well. It's exciting, but William Pacho kind of guarantees you a solid baseline score. Elise or Barcola? I'm going for Barcola right now. Yeah, Guirassy is on penalties. Twisted Parky, don't remind me, because when I sold him, he has gotten so many pens in the Champions League and he's been doing so well. Maigo Gyökeres, although he is a bit off the boil. He had a decent... I'm not sure why people are saying that. He had a decent cameo against Porto at the weekend where they drew 1-1. But yeah, he has been injured recently, so that makes sense. Bacho and Greg also differentials. Yeah. Greg, I'm guessing that's Di Gregorio, right? Hey bro, love your content. Why Jimitsi over Sappacosta? Because some lineups don't have Sappacosta in there. I'm not sure why that is. Probably just the rest, but he isn't injured. He has travelled with the squad. And Jimitsi got an assist this weekend in a 5-0 win over Hellas Verona. Look, either way, I'm not going for Gyökeres, but I think he will start personally. Carnesecchi and Otamendi or Sappacosta and Magnan? I would probably favour Carnesecchi and Otamendi, but there might be a world where Carnesecchi and Sappacosta are both benched. That could happen. Best Atalanta defender would be Hien. 53 points this season and over 50 ball recoveries. A very solid choice. Rui Patricio or Perrin, that's been covered, mate. Let's go for some different ones. So yeah, anything that's spammed or repeated, I'm not going to go through again, just to kind of, for the sake of repetition and to cover as many questions as possible. I think in my midfield, my only weak link is Gittins. Recommendations, I have Dembele, Foden, Pulisic, Musiala. I was thinking Barcola, but I also already have Pacho and Hakimi. Well, apart from Barcola, you might want to consider Elise and double up on the Bayern midfield. Otherwise, you know, Gittins is alright, but he has blanked in the last 3 games. He has been quite disappointing. I would have said Lookman, but it looks like, well, he is out. He's not in the squad, which is a shame, of course, and he might come back into our thinking for match day 10. But in your case, I might consider Bellingham. I still think he's a solid choice, but otherwise, Elise's got a better fixture, and he would do a pretty decent job. And look, another one is Joshua Kimmich, who I had in match day 8 and I benched him, but he's been really good for Bayern Munich recently. Yeah, I literally just said Hien for me is the best Atalanta defender, then it'd be Jimitsi. If I knew Sappacosta will start, then I would rank him slightly higher than Jimitsi, but not by much. Best Guerrero replacement, I'm not sure what your team is like, mate. It's impossible for me to say that. Musiala starts, yep, he should do. Theo Hernandez or Gatti? Gatti in isolation. Santiago Jimenez, yeah, I think he starts, Venom. Yeah, Kimmich has been in great form. He's not going to offer the same attacking threat as an Elise or Musiala, but he's got the odd goal or assist in him, and he can get ball recovery points. I wouldn't go for Rangers over Bellingham, but he does have a better fixture, to be fair, facing the worst defence in the Champions League, but Pulisic for me is the best AC Milan midfielder. Why do I not have Kobel? Well, Borussia Dortmund have 5 losses out of the last 8 matches. They lost 2-1 this weekend. They're 11th in the Bundesliga, and they've struggled in the Champions League. They're not keeping many clean sheets. I think Schlotterbeck is the best way to cover Borussia Dortmund defensively because of ball recoveries, but yeah, look, Kobel, he might turn up, and he did very well last season. He was the best goalkeeper in UCL Fantasy, but this season it's a different story. For me, Vinicius is better than Mbappe in UCL Fantasy, but that could change for the knockout stages. Maybe Mbappe goes on a mad one and he scores in the big moments, but Vinicius has been that guy for Madrid in the last couple of years. Yeah, I think so, Frederick, but there could be a few changes because I have been focusing mainly on questions in the last half an hour or so, and yeah, there's still room for improvement maybe, but in the forward line, for example, just take your pick, really. I mean, there are so many good choices there, but I'd probably favour Vinicius, Guirassy and Kane. I might make a switch and go for a differential and just avoid Borussia Dortmund completely, but Guirassy's been so good. Just look at his record. 7, 10, 5, 5, 6, 13, 6, 13. He hasn't blanked in the Champions League. Will he do it against Sporting? I think he will score across both legs, but in this game specifically for matchday 9, I think he could blank against Sporting. That is a possibility, but both defenses have been terrible, especially Borussia Dortmund this season. So maybe I'll go for Colomwani over Guirassy and go for a pun, or De Ketelaere against Club Brugge. That is another option for me. But yeah, pretty much with Atalanta, Lookman is out, and Kolasinac, of course, that was pretty obvious. All the other kind of key players for UCL Fantasy are all in that Atalanta squad, though. That is very, very encouraging. And let's see if I can get any other updates. By the way, you know the goal scorer odds, there have been some changes. Harry Kane has shot up to first. He's got a 58% chance of scoring. So this is the updated version compared to what I showed you yesterday and in the stream earlier today. So they've gone for Harry Kane top with 58%, Haaland second, same percentage, Vlahovic, Gyökeres and Mbappe complete the top 5. Then we've got Jimenez, Retegui, Barcola, Musiala, Vinicius, Guirassy and Dembele. So as you can see, not much of a difference between a lot of these players. Very, very close calls to be made there. So yeah, let me close these. And let's go one more time to predict 6. I've gone for Brest 1, PSG 3, Juventus 1, PSV 0, Manchester City 1, Real Madrid 2. There could be some changes to these predictions, to be fair. Monaco 1, Benfica 2, Celtic 1, Bayern Munich 2, and Feyenoord 1, AC Milan 1. But I still back AC Milan to go through. Maybe Feyenoord cause a little upset here, you could say. So let's go back to my transfers and see if I can lock in my team. But I am kind of leaning towards covering PSG defensively with William Baccio instead of Donnarumma. That is something I am looking at myself. Yeah, there's some big decisions to make here for the matchday 9 deadline. So I'm going to try lock things in. We've got over 1,000 people watching. I mean, the numbers right now are actually crazy. I think this, I'm not sure if it's a record, but yeah, a lot of people are interested in this phase of the Champions League. Like the video if you haven't already. It does help us in the algorithm. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. We are getting very close towards new milestones. And in terms of 32k, we are just around 200 away from that. So let's make more strides today. And in the next few weeks, we will be achieving that as well. Vinicius is not suspended, mate. He was for matchday 8. He is back now. Maybe you should update the app. That could be the issue where I know UCL Fantasy take time themselves to update things in the app and the website, but they did it yesterday. So I think that's probably the cause of your problem. Other than Di Gregorio, your whole team plays away. Little concern? Yeah, for matchday 9, that could mean a lower ceiling, but for matchday 10, it could do really well. I mean, sometimes you get upsets away, right? But yeah, it's not ideal. That is a good point. Yeah, Colomwani, I am looking at it. Yeah. Olise or Musiala, ¿y por qué? Musiala, para mí Olise está jugando muy bien, pero en los últimos partidos no está anotando goles o asistencias. Y eso pasó en la jornada 8 cuando compré a Olise y él hizo nada. Is Rangers a good choice over Pulisic? I'd go for Pulisic personally. What about Schlotterbeck over Gatti? There's not much in it, but I think Juventus have a better chance of a clean sheet. But the thing with Schlotterbeck is he's got ball recovery potential. That's what I like about him. All right, so let's see if I can maybe fix some things here. Oh my god, this is going to be a very hectic deadline, I think. We've got 20 minutes left. Lock in your teams. Yeah, let's see what we can do here. So I think with PSG, I'm quite settled on trying to go for Baccio over Donnarumma to cover them defensively, but it means going for a different goalkeeper on the 11th. And that's where I could go for Di Gregorio, potentially. Yeah, I think for tomorrow, Manuel Neuer, and cover Atalanta defensively with Jamitsi and Hien. So for now, I'll go for that. So Di Gregorio, Hien, and yeah, let's go for Manuel Neuer. As for Guirassy, he could also be on the chopping block here, and we can go for Colomwani, another home player, and another option on the Tuesday. But with these possible moves, I would have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players on the Tuesday, and then 7 tomorrow, which is a decent balance. It will then be 7 on the Tuesday and 8 on the Wednesday for matchday 10. That doesn't play a big part in my thinking, but it's something that is sometimes factored in when making transfers. But that looks okay. I do think my goalkeepers, in terms of clean sheet odds, will probably be worse than what I had before. And I do think Kanasechi will start, but there is still a doubt in my mind about it. So to get rid of that and the Kim Min-jae headache, maybe going for Jimitsi and Neuer makes the most sense. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat, but I'll start locking in this team fairly soon. Guirassy or Kolo Muani, I mean, both of them in different stratospheres this season in terms of Champions League returns, but Kolo Muani has 5 goals in the last 3 games, and he's got a decent home fixture against PSV, whilst Guirassy is away to Sporting, which should be a decent game, actually. I think that could be high scoring, and Guirassy hasn't blanked in the Champions League this season. Kim Min-jae or Hernandez. Kim Min-jae might not start, which is the reason why I might sell him. Yeah, Di Gregorio is slightly risky. I mean, he's been terrible. Well, he's been underwhelming sometimes. Yeah, Kanasechi's with a squad that's been covered. I literally have the same team, apart from keepers, without looking at yours. Yeah, because we are kind of limited in terms of the teams and stuff like that. But trust me, there are a lot of good options that we both don't have. Zappacosta no sé si va a jugar. UEFA.com en su alineación pusieron a Zappacosta en el banco, pero no sé si por qué sería la razón por eso, pero bueno. I've gone Brest 1, PSG 2, Juve 3, PSV 0, City 0, Real Madrid 2, Monaco 1, Benfica 3, Celtic 1, Bayern 2, Feyenoord 0, AC Milan 2. I like that. Gittins or Adeyemi? Gittins. I don't think Adeyemi starts, but I could be wrong about that. What do you mean about Pavlidis? I'm not sure what you're talking about. I think he's a decent option up front, but I wouldn't go for him myself. Guerrero could play both legs, but I'm not sure if it's an absolute certainty. Yeah, I think with Sporting, they are 5th in the clean sheet odds. And yeah, with Kim Min-jae, it's a shame because he was kind of locked in for my team, but there is a chance he is benched, and I want to avoid that headache. Why are you so much into Vinicius? I'm not into him. I mean, he's a good player. I don't rate him as highly as the Real Madrid fans do, but in terms of UCL Fantasy, he's done much better than Mbappe. I don't know why people are so offended by it. Is Walker a good pick if I don't have enough money for Theo? Yeah, I mean, he's not the great pick, I'll be honest, but could do a decent job for you. The odd ball recovery point. If AC Milan keep a clean sheet, he can get you 7-8 points in a game, but you are really dependent on that clean sheet. And to be fair, Theo, he has been pretty terrible this season. Di Gregorio got me 3 clean sheets in a row with Villa and City. Look, he was terrible for me, right? He was terrible for me. There's a lot of different reasons for that, but let's not forget he got sent off in the early rounds of the competition. In Matchday 1, he had a clean sheet locked in, and in the 93rd minute, he conceded against PSV. Look, he's a cheap goalkeeper after all, but yeah. I mean, look, he's not an amazing option, let's put it that way. Hey Dylan, hope your day's been well so far. Any replacements for either Hien, Barcola or Jimitsi? As I'm 0.3 million over. Maybe Barcola to Elise, mate. That's probably what you want to do. Or Jimitsi to Bellanova. Yeah, Kyle Walker's a viable option, just covered. Pun on Foden over Bellingham for this game week. That's fair. I'm not too against that. I'm with you, Dylan, says Twisted Parky. Thoughts on Pavlidis, he's in great form. Yeah, he is. But so is Kolo Muani, Dembele. There are so many options in the forward line and midfield that are in amazing form. You can't have them all, unfortunately, but yeah, from Benfica, he would be my favourite attacker, even over Di Maria right now. Is there any time you think anyone you think who could underperform? Yeah, I think you're saying anyone who could underperform, right? I mean, yeah, a lot of players could. Erling Haaland, maybe it's Vinicius. I'm not so sure. I think Real Madrid will be high scoring, for example. So difficult to say. My app isn't showing the dates. Other people have said that they aren't showing the fixtures, so yeah, it might just be an issue with the app right now. Muani, Retegui or Mbappe have Kane and Guirassy. From those 3, I am leaning towards Muani at the moment, but yeah, Retegui has 20 goals in Serie A this season. Mbappe, of course, we all know what he can do in the Champions League, and he has actually done really well for Real Madrid this year. But yeah, you've got no Real Madrid attacker. You might have Bellingham in the midfield though, right? If you have Bellingham there, I think I'd still go for... I think I'd go for Mbappe from these 3. I think Madrid-Man City is going to be very high scoring. Yeah, log out and log in. That could be a solution. Colomwani or Decathlare? Well, if I decide to sell Guirassy, I might end up going for Colomwani myself, but yeah, Decathlare had a calf problem against Hellas Verona this weekend, which is a bit concerning, but he should be available, and I think he'll start here. And I think Gasperini himself said that it's very important to have one of Decathlare or Lugman playing. They do have kind of a similar role in that team, but yeah, Decathlare is probably the better one in isolation, to be fair. Dylan Magnan and Neuer in goal, thanks. They both play tomorrow, so I wouldn't recommend that. You want to have one goalkeeper on the Tuesday and one on the Wednesday. My favourite from those two is probably Neuer. I think Gittins will play, yep. Locking Colomwani. I'm not entirely sure about locking him in because I'm also selling Guirassy for that. And I'm not sure if that's absolutely necessary. Also, I'm keeping Sommer, Koundé and Rafinha. No, Arthur, you get unlimited transfers for matchday 11, so you don't need to worry about that. Your focus should be on matchdays 9 and 10, so get rid of those players and bolster your knockout playoff rounds squad for matchdays 9 and 10, and yeah, just forget about them for now. Yeah, Kokchu is a decent option for Benfica. He had a very good start in the Champions League, but I don't see myself going for him over any of the midfielders you see on screen, or Elise and Phil Foden, for example. Haaland or Gyökeres? I would favour Gyökeres here. Dortmund are terrible defensively, and so are Madrid, you could say, or at least they're not the greatest defensively. But yeah, I just think if Gyökeres starts, which I back him to do, he looks really enticing. Kane over Dembele for captain? Makes no sense because Kane plays tomorrow, Dembele plays today. You want to captain the Tuesday player first, and then you can switch it to Kane if needed. Hi Dylan, Retegui, Guirassy, Colomwani, how do you rank them? Overall, I think Guirassy's the best, which is why he's in my team, by the way. In second, I think because of the fixture, you'd probably say Retegui and then Colomwani third. But the reason why I was looking at Colomwani is because he's got a home fixture, he's got 5 goals in 3 games, and in the case of Borussia Dortmund, they're facing Sporting away, which is still a tough game on paper. And yeah, they've lost 5 of the last 8 games, Borussia Dortmund, so there could be a time where Guirassy finally blanks in the Champions League, and matchday 9 might be the occasion. Hi Dylan, Guirassy, Moani, or Haaland or Vinicius? Am I supposed to pick one? I'm not sure what the thing is, but my favourite overall is Vinicius from those 4. Yeah, Dembele playing as a striker, yeah. He is my captain right now. That's quite locked in. My issue is really the other areas of my team and locking it in just in case. KDB or Foden? Phil Foden. If you can't find certain players, and don't worry Arthur, if you can't find a player in UCL Fantasy, update the app, or as someone said, log out and then log back in. They should be updated by now. I saw Colomwani yesterday when I recorded my UCL Fantasy team selection video, and the likes of Kvaratskhelia and all these kind of newly transferred and new UCL Fantasy players, they were all added later in the day. So they are all in there, so you can pick whoever you want who is actually going to play in these knockout playoff rounds. Hey Dylan, Sappacosta or Gimitsi? I would probably just go for Gimitsi because there is a chance that Sappacosta's benched. I'm not sure why that would be. Probably just a rest, to be fair. Thank you, Arthur. All teams will start to be template. Who is better, Elise or Pulisic? I prefer Pulisic. Have Musiala. That happened to me as well, where it autocorrects the musical. Jude, PSG assets. Yeah, Pulisic for me. Since Madrid will be playing away, wouldn't it be better to bet on another striker, at least for the first leg? Yeah, look, I've been asked this as well about Guirassy. I get it, but you've got 2 free transfers for matchday 10. I've got the wildcard in my back pocket, so I could be more aggressive and just, go for some more home players as well. So I get your point. But if you don't have the wildcard or limitless available, I would be very careful about how you approach matchdays 9 and 10. Because if you book in too many transfers, you might find yourself not happy with your team going into matchday 10. So your options outside of Madrid you're considering, I still like Foden. I like Haaland up front, but yeah, it's just, I still think Bellingham and Vinicius are great over both legs. It's not just about matchday 9, but also matchday 10. But yeah, I'm going to start locking things in, and this is such a difficult deadline. I can see why a lot of people have issues this week, but thank you to those that have subscribed. We are making big progress towards 32,000. We are now less than 200 away from reaching that milestone. Let's get this stream to over 400 likes. We're very close to that as well. Hopefully I haven't missed any super chats. I will have a look, but I'm going to start locking in my team because otherwise I'm not going to do it, and I don't want to miss the deadline, so to speak, because there are a few moves I potentially could make now over the next couple of minutes. But yeah, we've literally got 9 minutes left. Wait, what the hell? Oh, yeah, that's bugging out. Oh, okay, that must have been a technical error. Jimenez, Garassi, or Colomwani? I think Garassi's the best overall for both legs, so that's probably where my head would be at. So, gonna have a quick look on Twitter now and see if there's anything that could help us. Oh, Real Madrid's official lineup is out. That might be quite helpful. Real Madrid are woke, you could say, with the lineups. They literally announced them decades in advance. All right. So yeah, for those that aren't aware, this is the news that I was talking about earlier. Some reliable reports in Germany indicate that one of Kim Min-jae or Upamecano will be rested, which is why I'm looking to get rid of him in the first place. So I'm going to bring up Madrid's lineup, and we can go through that now as well. So Courtois in goal, Mendy, Asensio, Tchouaméni, and Valverde on the right-hand side. Bellingham, Camavinga, and is Ceballos starting over Modric, which was one of the doubts that Diario AS had about the lineup. Vinicius, Mbappe, and Rodrigo are up front. So that is the lineup. And let's cover Arania's super chat. We're also very close to reaching 10 super chats and making the stream go on for even longer. And I will be watching PSG versus Brest for a little while, and then we'll see what people think. But Arania says, Dylan, why double Atalanta and no buy in defence? Well, I am looking at buying Manuel Neuer in goal to replace Carnesecchi / Patricio, but I do think Atalanta have a better chance for clean sheet, than Bayern Munich. And the reason why I'm selling Kim Min-jae is because of the slide or the post I just showed you about Kim Min-jae potentially being rested. That doesn't mean he's definitely not going to start, but there is a chance that he won't feature in that lineup. And if not, it's going to be Upamecano. So to avoid that risk, I might end up going for Neuer in goal and then going for 2 Atalanta defenders, which I've been quite bullish on all week. So that's pretty much why I've structured my team in that sort of way. All right, so let's see. The lineup, of course, is covered. I did talk about PSG and Brest as well. That was also talked about. Kvaratskhelia is on the bench. If I go back to that here. Yeah, so you can see it on the right-hand side of your screen. Yeah, so pretty much no real surprises except Kvaratskhelia on the bench. Dembele playing down the middle, a very enticing option for Matchday 9. And then this is the league code if you haven't joined it already, cCaFxb. There is an auto-join link in the description, and these are my predictions. I'll probably stick with 3-1 PSG, but there could be changes for the other ones in terms of the Predict 6 featured matches. So now let's go back to the transfer section. It's time to lock things in because I'm getting sick and tired of this. I do have a lot of away players, to be fair. I do get that point that people are raising. One thing that has crossed my mind is selling Barcola to Foden, but it would be difficult to achieve with Garassi in my team as well. But one thing I could do is go for Foden, and then I can go for De Ketelaere. Or Retegui. I think I could go for Retegui as well. Yeah, I could. So that is something that has crossed my mind too. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat. But yeah, as you can see, Neuer is in place at the moment as my second goalkeeper if I decide to make these moves. Just avoid the Atalanta goalkeeper headache. But Carnesecchi is in the squad. I think he will start personally. That is the way I'm looking at it. A lot of these are pretty much literally 50-50. Do you cover Atalanta defensively with a goalkeeper or their defender? It's really not a big difference. Gone Hakimi captain, as my girlfriend likes his name. Thoughts? Well, I was asked about Hakimi captain in Spanish, and he's a great option, but I do prefer Dembele. And PSG haven't kept a clean sheet in the last 6 games against Brest, but they have won 9 of the last 10 meetings against them and drawn 1. So they've got a great record, but not from a defensive perspective. But Hakimi can still get a goal or an assist, of course. Good option, but Dembele would be the priority. Predicted lineups I'm seeing have Kim and Upamecano starting. Well, I did show you just now. It's from some German reporters, and I did show the UEFA.com lineups as well. Like I said, there could be a world where both of them actually start, or Kim Min-jae does, and then he gets a big return and you start regretting it. Yeah, Garassi is fit, yeah. Do you want 2 Atalanta tomorrow? Better if it was today? Yeah, I think 2 Atalanta players is fine. I'm not really too concerned about that. That is what I'm currently going towards. All right, so let's lock things in. And yeah, unfortunately, there's no more updates, I think, to give. So pretty much what you see is what you get. At least we've got the Atalanta lineup or the squad, so we know who's in and out. So Lukman and Kolasinac are both missing, and there is a chance for the likes of Karnaseci to start in Matchday 9. So let's see. Yeah. Bellingham or Barcola? I think Bellingham over both legs, but Barcola is still a solid shout. All right, so I think I'm going to stick with this. So Kane, Garassi, and I think Vinicius. I am quite tempted by Foden, to be fair. I am quite tempted. Just have that Man City coverage in place as well. Yeah. $1.5 million offer would be from these sort of moves. I think Musiala to Elise could be another shout for me. Yeah. I think what I'll do actually is kind of keep it simple. So we've literally got 3 minutes left. Lock in your teams. You don't want to leave things until the last minute. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Barcola, even though I've got 7.5 million to go for Kvaratskhelia. So essentially I'm getting Foden for Bellingham. I'm getting William Pacho and Di Gregorio and Neuer come in as my goalkeepers. Kim Min-jae is out because of that possible doubt. And look, he might well start. And if he does, that will be a bit gutting because he is my favourite way of covering Bayern Munich defensively. But that is, I think, the way I will go about it. In terms of home players, I've only got Foden and Di Gregorio, which is not ideal, let's put it that way. But the rest are away. They can still do very well, and they've got good fixtures on the whole. Yeah, I think that is pretty much the way I'm going to go about it. Yeah. So Bellingham could still come in for me for match day 10. But yeah, that is... I'm going to log this in. So you can see the transfers here on screen. Bellingham, Gatti, Kim Min-jae, Donnarumma, and Rui Patricio out for Foden, Pacho, Jimitsi, Di Gregorio, and Neuer. So 2 goalkeeper changes. It's not something I envisaged going into this deadline stream. Let's just have this ready as well, just in case. I might want to make more moves. So I want to have that ready just in case. But yeah, we literally got seconds left. So let me make sure that my players are actually in the starting 11. Yeah, all of my Tuesday players are in. That is fine. So with this balance as well, by the way, I would have... Oh yeah, let me see. For some reason, yeah, okay, that should be good. So Di Gregorio, Hakimi, Pacho. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players here on the Tuesday. The rest on the Wednesday. Not too shabby. So yeah, this is my final team, I think. I'm going back to Di Gregorio. Let's see if we can make up for some of the trolling he's done to me personally in UCL Fantasy. So Hakimi and William Pacho to start today. And I've got Jimitsi as well in my starting 11. Not really a big deal. That's not too relevant. But yeah, make sure all your Tuesday players are in your 11. We are locking in basically seconds. And make sure you've got your preferred captain. It is Dembele for me. And tomorrow I'll be going for Harry Kane. That is the most likely scenario. But an alternative is Pulisic if I want to go a bit different and maybe go against the template. But yeah, very interesting times ahead in UCL Fantasy. Thank you to those that have tuned in. We have covered hundreds of questions as usual. And there will be even more covered next week for the Tuesday deadline stream in Matchday 10 for UCL Fantasy. And for FPL, there's obviously more streams over the next few days. On Friday, there will be a deadline stream. On Saturday, I'll try to do a reaction one as well. And more content with videos and stuff like that. The best wildcard team and my team selection for Double Gimmick 25 is headed your way. But yeah, Brest versus PSG is up. I'm going to see if I can get the game up as well. And we can relax now because all the stress is done. I've locked in my team. I would have preferred to, not have done it so late, but there were a few things I was a bit unsure about, to be honest with you. But thankfully, it has all been all been covered. Garassi or Colomwani, yeah, I've been quite consistent on this. Garassi for me. Could Colomwani outscore him in Matchday 9? Of course he can, with the home tie as well, but across both legs, I just think Garassi is a very solid choice. Yeah, I've covered this before, Keo. I don't think Gatti's a bad option, but I've got Di Gregorio as my Tuesday goalkeeper, which allows me to go for Neuer on the Wednesday. And the reason why I've done that is because Kim In-jae, there are reports that he could be rested, if not Upamecano. And if that's the case, I'd just rather cover Bayern Munich defensively with Manuel Neuer now. And to do that, I make that goalkeeper downgrade from Donnarumma to Di Gregorio, and I don't want to double up on Juventus defensively, so I've moved Gatti off. So that's why it's like a domino effect from other moves. Locked in, and good luck, Dylan, says Sudindra. Thank you very much. Easy99 says locked in team, Donnarumma, Neuer, Theo, Flamingo, Hien, Kerrer, Hakimi, Dembele, Kokchu, Musiala, Pulisic, Jude, Garassi, Retegui, and Kane. Yeah, so it's a good squad. Very good squad. I mean, I had Bellingham all week, but I made that late switch to Foden, have another home game, and also to cover City one way or the other. Let's see if that ends up backfiring. Good luck, Alex and Ryan. Why do I always end up in a panic? To be fair with this one, it's a new round of the Champions League, right? So no one expected this sort of thing. Yeah, I don't really blame you if you start panicking. I had some issues going into the stream, actually, and then I had like an error message, so I was like a bit, you know, let's just say, I don't know how to say this, alterado, so, you know, a bit, maybe hype or a bit tense, but yeah, for the last couple of minutes, it's calm. Hernandez out me, bro. I'm not sure where you got that from. I think Reinders is a decent differential pick too. He's had some decent performances and, you know, output, but nah, I just prefer Pulisic. Good luck, Augustin, and everyone else. We are locked. Yes, we are. Let's see if we get an early goal. We usually do during these deadline streams. Yeah, Arthur said Garassi and Jude or Mbappe and Lookman. Lookman's out, so it would have been Garassi and Jude for me. But yeah, Lookman, that was covered quite extensively. Elise or Musiala or Pulisic, choose two. Pulisic and Musiala, which is what I've gone for. Bellingham over Foden always? Maybe, but I've gone for Foden as a late change. We'll see how that goes. Vinicius or Rodrigo? Vinicius, but Rodrigo has a great record against City. I don't think you can go wrong with either. Yeah, best sporting players. Gyökeres is by far the best, and I think he will start. Franco Israel is no longer an option, sorry. They are going for a different goalkeeper. I think it's Reece Silva. But I think Gonzalo Inacio might be an okay defender to go for. He scored against Arsenal earlier this season. He can get some ball recoveries, but for me, it's Gyökeres or nothing. Foden over Bellingham, risky. It might be, mate, but it's not the end of the world. Is getting still okay option. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Kim Min-jae or Jimitsi and Musiala or Elise for two legs. I've gone for Jimitsi because there are rumours of Kim Min-jae not starting. I mean, one of Upamecano or Kim will be benched. That's been covered to death. As for Musiala or Elise, Musiala for me. Sapacosta or Jimitsi. For similar reasons to the Kim Min-jae debate, I would favour Jimitsi. Went with a double Atalanta defence and no Milan players. Was it a mistake? I don't think... Look, ultimately, we do judge this based on results, right? So we can't really say anything now, just give our opinions, but I don't think it's a mistake. It's just a different way of approaching it. I would personally have one AC Milan player in there, particularly an attacker, because they are facing the worst defence left in the competition, but AC Milan are inconsistent themselves. I made some subs last minute, Rodrigo and Mbappe plus Kane. Good luck, Dylan. Yeah, strong forward line. I've said before, I'm not a big fan of doubling up on a certain team with the forward line. You've only got 3 spots, but I think Rodrigo and Mbappe can make it pay off. Oh, got it. Wish you the truth in this life. Thank you, Kia. Likewise. Gabriel says, bro, I think I messed up last second. Tried to bring in Foden. Didn't want to sell Bellingham, so ended up with random goalkeeper and defender. Yeah, that can happen. It can happen in UCL Fantasy and FPL. Yeah, that is far from ideal, so I do feel for you there. I have a similar team to you. Your Vinicius and Barcola versus my Colomwani and Bellingham. Interesting. So we've basically got the same amount of away players, right? Or maybe I've got one more home player, but you can't look too much into home versus away. That's only one factor alongside, do you have 8 Tuesday players and 7 Wednesday, or do you have more Wednesday and other stuff to consider? But yeah, there's so many different options, despite the fact that, you know, on paper you would have thought, you know what, everyone's going to have the same team and it's going to be boring, but it's going to be some interesting swings ahead, trust me. Good luck, Adiado. Oh no, I don't want to butcher your name, sorry. Adetunji, I can pronounce that better, but thank you very much, mate. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. It's crazy, either City or Madrid will be eliminated from playoff rounds and not advance to the round of 16. But they left themselves in that position, right? By doing so poorly in the league phase. That's one thing I like about the new format. Let's see if it is a welcome change in the long term. 1 minute before deadline, I switched from Haaland, Barcola, Gittins to Retegui, Jude, Foden. Yikes, good luck. Yeah, a lot of people would have done that, myself included, making these kind of late switches. It's kind of natural, right? Because you're picking, you know, from the same team, you might go for a forward instead of a midfielder or a goalkeeper instead of a defender. And it might not seem like much, but it could lead to a massive swing. DeSantis says, I got Otamendi and Colomwani instead of double Atalanta defense and Garassi. Interesting. I mean, that could work very well for you. The only concern with Otamendi, just like Theo Hernandez and Bellingham, one more yellow card and he gets suspended. So something to look out for, but Otamendi's a good option. 17 ball recoveries in Matchday 8 is outstanding. Forgot to change Bellingham over Barcola. Oh yeah, that is far from ideal. Richard Millerchip says, swapped Vinicius, Garassi, Jamitsi to Haaland, Rodrigo, Bellanova at the last minute. Oof. Wow. That is, yeah. Some people would have been able to make the switches and bring them onto the starting 11. Others would have maybe had some pain with that. So at least you got it spot on. Foden over Bellingham, whatever. But then Dembele captain over Vinicius. Well, Keith, as I've covered extensively in all these videos, Dembele has got 13 goals in 7 games in this calendar year. He scored a hat-trick against Brest on the 1st of February, just 10 days ago. He also scored a brace against them earlier this season, so I don't think it's a crazy pick, actually. In fact, a lot of engaged managers in the UCL Fantasy community will be going for that sort of thing, so unfortunately, it's not as big of a differential as I would maybe hope for. Upset prediction playoff? I mean, there's so many things that could happen. Man City, Madrid, I mean, they're both kind of juggernauts, especially Madrid, so I'm going to avoid that one. I think maybe what we could be looking at, you know what, I'm going to say maybe Feyenoord beating AC Milan. That could be a possible upset. That's something that springs to mind. Super enjoyed beating Chelsea, but typical we get a tough draw. Newcastle away and City can get an easier tie, as they often do. To be fair, though, City have gotten tougher opponents in the Champions League. Of course, with the new format, it's almost inevitable, right? But they did get Real Madrid in the Champions League just now. But I do get what you're saying. Certain clubs do seem to get easier opponents in the FA Cup and Carabao Cup. I mean, look, with Arsenal, there's no excuse, right? I mean, I want to win the FA Cup. It's one of my favourite competitions. But in the last couple of years, we faced, Man United in the 3rd round this year, the holders and the second most successful team in this competition. Last year was Liverpool in the 1st round. And the year before that, Man City in basically the 2nd round, or technically the 4th round. So yeah, it's far from ideal, but it is what it is, right? Liverpool loss against Plymouth caused big chaos in double game week 33 and 34. It does cause a change, especially with chip strategy. I think the free hit, for example, could be more powerful in double game week 33 as opposed to blank game week 34. It's going to be very easy on paper to navigate the blank game weeks this season in 29 and 34. But I'll talk more about that in the FPL streams, of course. But, you know, we could still talk about some things now, very briefly. Thank you, John. Well done, sir. Rumours that Munich may rest Musiala as well. Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, that's great. Maybe I should have gone for someone else. Choose Mendes over Bacho. Yeah, I've went for Bacho, to be fair. I'm quite happy with him. Going all out with triple City attack. Haaland, KDB, Foden, and no Madrid. Doing the same thing the past 3 seasons, hoping it goes well. Wow, okay, good luck to you. In the end, I kind of I went for Foden and made that switch from Bellingham, but yeah, I am backing Madrid to win, at least across both legs. City should still try to make a statement today and get ahead, because if they go into the Bernabeu, you know, behind or level, it's going to be a very long day. Either Gatti, Bellingham and Garassi to Gyökeres, Barcola and Theo. Hopefully Garassi won't haul like in Gimmick 8. Well, I'm hoping he finally does, but Garassi's been very annoying to me this season. Very, very annoying. I've sold him at the wrong time. He was injured or an injury doubt when I did make that sort of call. If PvP score at all, I'm certain Garassi will be involved, Dylan. Best of luck, I've got a similar team, but Elise and Haaland over your Foden and Garassi. Good luck. Likewise, there could be rotation as well. Maybe some of our players will be benched. But yeah, Haaland's interesting. A lot of people are going for him. He's got the highest chance of scoring, according to some of these bookmakers. In my opinion, De Ketelaere should be a mid, not a forward. Yeah. I mean, he plays in a sort of similar role to Lookman, and one's a midfielder in UCL Fantasy, the other one's a forward, so I get that. Yeah, I think if De Ketelaere was a midfielder, he's in my team. I'm not going to lie. Went with Carrere and Pasalic as differentials. What do you think? A few people went for Carrere. Not many in the grand scheme of things, but I've seen that name drop quite a few times, actually. So hopefully that goes well for you. Pasalic, interesting. Not entirely convinced about that. Watching the game, looks like Hakimi playing in midfield. Yeah, he does sometimes invert, and to be honest with Hakimi, he can play in all sorts of different ways. He is a wing-back by trade more than a traditional right-back. Micah Richards' favourite club upset today? Well, to be fair, he's also an Arsenal fan. But yeah. How do you do this answering questions for straight 2 hours? Appreciate the work you put in. Thank you, Gabriel. I mean, it is fun. It does go by very quickly. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's 3 hours. I think we've done a 3.5 hour stream before. And there will be more streams this week. On Friday, like I said, the deadline stream for FPL, and a possible reaction live stream on Saturday. Gone Gyökeres over Retegui because of home fixtures. Yeah, that makes sense. I get that. And I do think Gyökeres is probably a better option than Garassi for Matchday 9 specifically, if both of them start. But over both legs, I am favouring Garassi. Drop Garassi for Moani and Bellingham for Pulisic in the last minute. Triple Juventus with Gatti and goalkeeper. Wow. At least you've got some more home players, which could work in your favour. I may have got a bit carried away at the Amex, says Tustapaki. I don't blame you for that, to be fair. You do hate Chelsea. Champions League doesn't count. Fair enough. But back in the day, City also got easy draws in the Champions League until very recently. Imagine if Plymouth dump out City as well. Nah, the fact that they're playing at the Etihad, though, I don't think there's much of a chance. But City were there for the taking against Leyton Orient. We weren't too far off from a very early upset over the weekend. Maybe Company underestimates Celtic. That's why he does some changes. If it's against City, he will not change any lineup. Yeah, but the thing is, like, they've got a great chance of winning the Bundesliga. They're 8 points clear. They beat Bayer Leverkusen. They're basically on track to win it. You are probably right, of course. I mean, Celtic, Bayern could rotate and still get the job done, but it's a bit surprising because away from home, I think Celtic could get a win. I really think that. At the Allianz, it's a different story. But fair enough. I mean, there's a lot of different factors coming into play. I just hope Musiala isn't benched. I got both Foden and Bellingham. Yeah, that can work as well. The same goes for those with Haaland and Vinicius or Rodrigo. Gakpo should be a mid in FPL. He is playing as a left winger nowadays, so that does make sense. But he was a forward in Euro Fantasy as well. And yeah, in UCL Fantasy and FPL too. It's kind of a weird one. Like, why is Salah a midfield in all these games, but he's a fucking, like, you know, Gakpo's a forward? That's something we should be asking, I guess, but that's always been the case. Doué should be a mid as well, says Insane Gamer. Yeah, you are correct. There's a few misclassifications. I mean, UCL Fantasy last season, I know it's a different kind of thing, but they priced Kivu at 6 million. Like, what were they smoking? I get to Ketelaere. I don't know, I get a feeling that he will do better. Retegui now. I'm rethinking I messed it up. Are you saying, so you got De Ketelaere? Well, yeah, I think De Ketelaere is better than Retegui, and he has done it in the Champions League consistently this season. But ultimately, you've made your bed. You've made your choice. Don't overthink it too much, and I wish you the best of luck, of course, for Matchday 9. Aranya says, went with Colomwani over Garassi because I saw some stats putting Juve, Bayern, City and Madrid at the top of the goals probability, plus Garassi is the obvious popular option, so went a bit differential. Yeah, I do prefer Colomwani over Garassi for Matchday 9, but across both legs, I'm still going to favour Garassi. We'll wait and see how it all pans out, but it's going to be difficult to judge even at the end of these games. By the Thursday, I think we'll have a better picture, of course, going into next week. Transit Tube says, Newcastle fan here, hope we smash Brighton. Steady on, lad. Aranya says, went with double Gatti and Di Gregorio instead of getting Fio in, even though it does feel a bit overkill because Milan's defense has just been so inconsistent and frustrating. I don't blame you. And I'm not a big fan of Theo Hernandez anyway, but he played very well this weekend in the 2-0 win over Empoli, and AC Milan kept the clean sheet. So maybe the manager, Sergio Conceição, is starting to kind of have his stamp on the team, and maybe they'll be solid defensively. They were last season with Porto, Sergio Conceição, so I'm hoping for more of the same here with AC Milan. Irish BVB says, who is the asset you're most worried about to leave out? It's De Ketelaere for me. Had him in all week before a change to Vinicius. I don't know where to start. I mean, Haaland, Mbappe, Rodrigo. Yeah, I think another one I'm a bit unsure about. It actually might be Colin Wani, because I was quite close to bringing him in, at least for Matchday 9. But if I had to pick just one player, yeah, De Ketelaere. Yeah, I think that's probably the one for me as well, actually. I think he could go off. The only inhibition I have about my Dembele captain is the early fixture curse. I think that's more of a thing for FPL, but I get it. You know, it's a fair point to raise. But I think that's more of a fantasy Premier League thing. Oh shit, what the hell? Sorry, I said that because I thought my my stream crashed. Bloody hell, mate. Literally my chat just died on me. Yeah, Richards is an Arsenal fan, yeah. That's why a lot of times people make fun of him, like they'll say, "Oh, like you're conflicted about Arsenal City." But he was an Arsenal fan originally. Now he supports City as well, I guess. I mean, I don't know where he leans towards. I mean, ultimately he can just claim, "Oh yeah, my team's won the Premier League," I guess, except maybe this year. Domi says, "How many points from Dembele would you make you not switch captain to Kane?" I think 8 points, even 7 to be fair, but a goal, and I'm probably going to stick with him. Sorry, you know way better than me. My hope of seeing Man City lose big slipped up there. No, don't worry, Keith. I mean, look, you might know much more than me in that regard, but Dembele's been brilliant. I mean, when I looked at his stats, I mean, I was just blown away by what he's been doing. He might end up blanking today, so it might flop anyway, and ultimately we want UCL Fantasy points. I don't care what he's doing in Ligue 1, but if he can translate that into the most prestigious club competition, I'm on board with it, and hopefully he can do the job. Went De Ketelaere instead of Garassi, even though there are several players for tomorrow? Yeah, that's only one factor in determining how to build your UCL fantasy team, but be mindful of that in terms of having too many Wednesday players. Now, this will play in your favour for Matchday 10, because if you've got more Wednesday players now, you'll have more Tuesday players next time, and ultimately, the kind of balance you'd ideally want is 8 to 10 Tuesday players, and the rest would play on the Wednesday, but you can still do well regardless of that sort of structure. City were lucky. Orient were fantastic. Yeah, it was a great goal as well by Donnelly, right? Donnelly. Yeah, Madrid lineup was covered already in Gamer. They publish it at like 5 p.m. But yeah, Valverde right back, Mendy on the left, Asensio, Tchouameni in central defense, Courtois in goal, Ceballos. It's all been covered. Of course, the front three is what you'd expect. So yeah, Bellingham and Camavinga, the other midfielders. This is the longest gap of Game Week 24 of FPL. 10 days to wait for Everton versus Liverpool. Yeah, I'm leaving with something, because if Everton win, it gives me a decent chance, or gives Arsenal a little chance, kind of shameless. And if Liverpool win, I get Arne slot points and all that jazz. So I'll get something. Language Timothy, says Twisted Parky. Seems like everyone has Dembele captain. I hope that's not the case. A lot of people in terms of the engaged community on YouTube might be doing that, but that doesn't mean, generally speaking, people are going to be captaining Dembele everywhere. I think there's going to be quite a split in terms of the general community with Haaland, Mbappe, Vinicius, etc. Pritchard says Haaland captains that differential a little bit. I mean, in terms of compared to people on YouTube and Twitter, yeah, it probably is. But I think a lot of casuals, as we say, or people who maybe just make their team and don't give it too much thought, maybe. And I'm not trying to criticize you, by the way, but it could actually work in your favour. I thought Doncaster would do more versus Palace. Other than Molineux, they were not great. Yeah, look, Crystal Palace were quite comfortable victors in the end in the FA Cup, but I'm not too interested in the next round, to be honest, with the matchups. Are Watkins' minutes secured with Rashford in? I think he will be the main striker still. But I think all Aston Villa attackers, there will be an element of rotation. And there will be certain games where Rashford might play down the middle, mainly off the bench though. I think Watkins is still kind of like the undisputed number one. And it's not like it's not like the Duran situation where you had both strikers, you know, starting several games and then being benched for the others and sharing minutes. I think it'll be a bit different to that. 50 minutes and our captain Dembele is yet to touch a ball. Typical, right? And like I said, he scored 5 goals against the same opponent. But nothing so far, it seems. But yeah, if you haven't already liked the video and subscribed to the channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. PSG pen given. PSG might be given a penalty. Let's turn this on. Penalty given? TV on. Yes, that's what I'm doing. So let's see. I'm going to shamelessly watch this. Dembele's not taking the pen. It's Vitinha. Okay. TV off. Yeah, I'm not interested. You can tell me if they score or not, but I just want to see points. I don't care about Vitinha getting a goal. What do you think about having Savio? Foden's my favourite Man City attacker, but Savio has been fairly decent. I mean, he got the assist for Haaland against Arsenal recently. And he's got a lot of goals and assists on the left-hand side this season. But yeah, Foden's my favourite. Also, Nico Gonzalez. I didn't follow Porto much, but I've heard Xavi speak highly of him, even comparing him to Busquets. I've only seen a handful of games. I don't know much about him, but I think he's a decent player and a good cover for Rodri. But once the big dog is back, yeah, Gonzalez will be the backup, and that's a very good one to have, actually. So I think Man City have made a good investment. A bit unfortunate with his debut, but it is what it is, right? Yeah, so everyone's talking about penalties and stuff like that. Yay, flagrant penalty. What does that mean? Because I see these people in mini leagues with City and Madrid captains, and it always feels gloomy when there's no early goal, like there hasn't been one yet in PSG Brest. Well, until the penalty given, but unfortunately Dembele didn't do anything. Who actually won the penalty, though? That's what I'm wondering. Let's see. Who won this bloody penalty? There's always an early goal, but unfortunately we can't even celebrate. Unless you got Vitinha. In that case, well done. Oh, Dembele won the penalty. Come on, it's some points. Come on. We're in business, lads. We're in business. I know you would have wanted him to take it, but what if he missed? It is Dembele we're talking about, by the way. Yeah, he's not exactly having the best of games right now, but he won the penalty. All right, that's... Wait, did he? Did he win the penalty or not? It says here that he did. Am I tapped? I'm not, by the way. I'm asking a rhetorical question. But yeah, let me know who won the penalty. It did say here on my app that it's Dembele. I hope so, Augustine. Some studios like CBS with Carragher and Henry have making a blast out of Brest this year. Yeah, I've been seeing some of those. And Micah Richards, of course. Mike has to support Man City. He's an ambassador for them. Yeah, I know, but he was an Arsenal fan as a kid, so, I mean, you can't really change that, right? I'm on Dembele captain. Yeah, he doesn't take pens. That's not something I've ever kind of like bigged up for Dembele himself. I think Gonzalo Ramos would be the #1 taker if he's on the pitch. And yeah, I mean, is Vitinha their main taker? I'm going to check the last PSG penalty that they were awarded and see if Vitinha also took that. So just give me a second. So yeah, they haven't had any penalties in the last couple of games. Let's see. Wow, it's been a while since they've had a penalty. Yeah, okay, I'm going to have to look back to maybe 2024. Bloody hell, mate. Bloody hell. This is the kind of thing we want to know. So yeah, the last penalty was taken by Gonzalo Ramos when he was on the pitch. But was Vitinha on the pitch at the same time? No, I don't think he was. No, he was. Yeah, Vitinha was on the pitch. He came on as a substitute, and Gonzalo Ramos took the penalty. So, yeah, it looks like Gonzalo Ramos is the first choice penalty taker, and Vitinha is second. So we've got the answer. Unfortunately, it is not Ousmane Dembele. Yeah, so Dembele won it. Fair enough. We got some points. Vitinha was my differential shout. Yeah, he's a decent player, to be fair, but UCL Fantasy-wise, I'm not going to recommend him. Might get pen 1 point. Let's actually check, because I haven't seen my own score. No, Dembele's not getting any points right now. Ah, shit. Oh, so yeah, if it's a handball, he's not going to get it. If he won the penalty himself, if he was fouled, he would get those penalty awarded points. So yeah, unfortunately we are starving, lads. We are not getting any points right now. Who gets the points for winning the pen? No one. No one gets the pen. I have Rodgers, need to think if I save my only transfer, get Dango, already got Clover, or get Watkins for Wood or Isak. I mean, as a 1 week punt, I think Watkins for Chris Wood looks pretty decent, but yeah, for myself personally, Anthony Gordon, who's yellow flagged, I can save a bit of money and get a double gimmick player in Rodgers. That would be my avenue. But Rodgers is on 8 yellow cards, so 2 more, and he does get suspended. A very cool no-look pen from Vitinha. Dembele had the last kick before the handball. Yeah. Fantasy hasn't given the points at the moment. I don't think he'll get it. Yeah, if it's a handball, no assist, yeah. Well, at least we've cleared that up. Yeah, I know, Godhead, it's just I'm trying to get through all the questions and stuff. And a lot of the recent messages are pretty much the same, talking about the penalty. I'm your FPL content follower. Do more players play UCL Fantasy or FPL? Oh, FPL, 100%. It's just more people will tune into my UCL Fantasy stuff, I guess. But yeah, FPL has like 10 million players. UCL Fantasy has approximately 1 to 2 million. Kane, Vinicius, Colomwani, Dembele, Barcola, Musiala, Foden, Hakimi, Pacho, Hien, and Di Gregorio. Yeah, good luck. I really hope Di Gregorio doesn't let us down. Even Marquinhos takes them, says Bada. Oof, okay, I wasn't aware of that. I like the way pens are taken, changed. No bullshit stutter steps. One continuous move. I mean, look at Semenyo against Everton in the FA Cup. That's a nice penalty. Yeah, sorry, DeSanta. I don't think so. You changed Colomwani to Garassi? I never bought Colomwani. I just had him in the transfer section and I said I might bring him in. I never said, yeah, he's in my team. I've never said that. Either way, it might be a blessing in disguise for you. It might be Colomwani doing really well and Garassi blanking. So ultimately, you've got to back your own players and go for your own sort of thing. Now, check the game before that. It was Dembele, says Sol. Oh, let me see. Let's do a VAR check, even though it's really irrelevant at this point because, yeah, unfortunately, we're getting no points for Dembele so far. Let's see. So the game before, so what was this? The 4-0, and then a 2-1 against St. Etienne. Is that what you're on about? Yeah, you are right. Dembele did score a penalty. And that was on the 12th of January. But was Gonzalo Ramos on the pitch? That's my point. And was Vitinha on the pitch? No, they weren't. So, wait, Colomwani... Sorry, Colomwani. Gonzalo Ramos. Oh, he was on the pitch. But he was subbed off quite early, but... I don't know, mate. Who knows at this point? Maybe Vitinha. Or they just share it? Yeah, it's not really clear-cut. If you actually break it down... No, it's not really clear-cut, but you would gather Gonzalo Ramos, Vitinha, and Dembele are the main takers, and unfortunately Dembele didn't take this one. I'm going to have a jacket potato, so hopefully I won't stay too hungry. Fair enough. Enjoy your jacket potato, lad. Joseph says, not true. Vitinha is the first penalty taker. Enrique said it, and it was the same last year. Fair enough. It's just, I'm not sure why there was that penalty where Gonzalo Ramos took it. But yeah, so it's Vitinha first, and then Gonzalo Ramos and then Dembele share, I guess. Yeah, as Adetunji just said, and I covered it earlier, it was a handball. So you don't get assists for a handball in UCL Fantasy. If Dembele was fouled and won it, he would get 2 points for being awarded a penalty. Goldhead says, I already have Rodgers, so I think I'm doing Gordon to Semenyo. Would love the triple captain, but have Slot. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I've got Semenyo, I've got Arne Slot, and I might buy Morgan Rodgers. FPL also has 1,000 creators, UCL not many, so it'll be a bigger piece of the smaller cake, says Alan. I mean, that's probably a fair way of doing it. Yeah, FPL does seem, you could say oversaturated. I have seen that word thrown around before. I think there's a pre-defined hierarchy, but they go the best at the moment based on game state. Yeah, maybe you're right. But, of course, there was a comment earlier by Jose, who said Vitinha is the first choice penalty taker. Yeah, I mean, ultimately he's the one who took it, and that's what matters. But yeah, I think Dembele and Gonzalo Ramos would be next in line afterwards. And I think Vitinha needs a pick-me-up considering his lack of GA. And maybe at the time when Gonzalo Ramos scored a penalty with Vitinha on the pitch, maybe he needed that boost as well. I've seen Arsenal do this sort of thing with Odegaard, Havertz and Saka. So it's nothing alien to me, but I wanted Dembele taking that, to be fair, or at least getting penalty awarded points, but we're not getting it. So that is pretty much the be-all and end-all. Thank you to those that tune in today. It has been a very, very interesting live stream, to say the least, with this new league phase format, or Champions League format, and now, of course, we are in the knockout playoff rounds. So we've got more games, more Champions League football. That means more deadline streams and much more content for UCL Fantasy. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then smash the like button of this video and subscribe to the channel. Our aim is to get this to as many likes as possible. Maybe let's try to just get a few more in there before the end. And subscribe as well, as we're looking to close in towards 32,000 subscribers. Follow me on X and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for my Patreon, the Championships, the Discord server, UCL Fantasy League, and Blue Sky. There is also my Spotify as well. And if you do sign up as a patron or member, you'll gain early access to my videos, amongst many other perks like priority reply to comments in all my live streams and videos. You can also talk to me whenever you want across all my social media platforms. Thank you, Bada and Alan as well. Hoping for loads of pool points tomorrow on my birthday. Happy birthday, Twister Parky. Obviously a bit in advance, but have a great week in general, and we'll talk very soon. Probably on the Friday, right? But if you need a day off and you want to celebrate your birthday, you can definitely do that, mate. Instead of moderating my dumb streams. UCL predictions final. A lot depends on the draw, but I've been quite consistent. I think the likes of Liverpool, Barcelona, Madrid, and Inter Milan would be my favourites. Arsenal are somehow second in all these stats. Like in Opta, they've got them second favourites, and also there was another one, probably my imagination, my dreams. No, but there was another one that had Arsenal second, but yeah, I really don't see why that's the case. Dembele, skies are tapping. There's the Dembele we all know and love, right? He's trolling us. What a shock. Me and my boys bet this match day, made our fantasy just to have 14-15 in common because we all watch your live. Wow, I very much appreciate that. So, wait, you didn't play UCL Fantasy before? Yeah, if you're using this for betting advice, just be very careful with that one, but hopefully it goes well for you. Have you heard about the news that the Champions League final could be moved to the US in future years? I don't think I've seen that particular news, but it doesn't completely surprise me. There's always these kind of rumors of football being moved to the US for certain big games, or Saudi Arabia. I'm not a big fan of it personally, but the good thing about it is that it opens the door for viewers on the other side of the world to watch their favourite club. But I don't like what it means for the local fans. Colomwani is my biggest insecurity, I'd reckon. Have Kane, Garassi and Mbappe. Anyway, bye, mate. Yeah, look, we've all got that kind of one player you're unsure about, but Colomwani is a nice differential. I am 23 against Twisted Parky. Enjoy it, lad. Enjoy it for sure. Happy birthday, Sparky, says Soul. Definitely. Second that. Getting old, don't want to celebrate. Well, you got to enjoy the moment, right? You got to enjoy the moment. After the stream on Friday, hopefully we'll see us beat Chelsea again. Hopefully. And then Palmer scores. I don't know how he wasn't given that goal. Maybe the bookmakers were involved in that one. 23 is young, brother. Live and enjoy, man. Time flies so fucking fast, mi amigo. Live it. Yeah, great words by Anthony. I second that as well. See you as well, Baraf and Stenius Gamer. Good to see you. The US can F off. I hate Bowley and all that lot. Well, same with the Cronkies. Let me not get started on them. According to Miguel Delaney, a Champions League final in the USA moves step closer as UEFA enters into exclusive negotiations with Relevant. Well, I appreciate the kind of news, I guess. I wasn't aware of that. Not sure what to think of it. I'm not really a big fan, personally. But like I said, the good thing about it, looking at the positives, is that the kind of die-hard American fans, and there are some for sure, they could maybe watch their favourite club in a Champions League final. I wish I was really 23. Well, either way, you're probably still young, Twister Parky. Don't worry about that, lad. Now I'm from the US. As much as real football fans here would love it, our society doesn't deserve it. Social events here can be scary. Well, the Copa America final in July between Argentina and Colombia was a disgrace in terms of being delayed for hours with the security and what happened there. So yeah, I can see why you say that. Suka, says Saul. Well, I still think so, Twister Parker. Either way, enjoy your birthday when it does come about. I don't know why that's happening, by the way. It's like my messages get stuck in limbo. I'm not sure if that's the same for you lot. But anyway, enjoy the football. Hopefully Dembele scores some bloody points and we can celebrate by the end of the PSG Brest game. And there is more Champions League football later tonight. Of course, the big one, Real Madrid versus Manchester City at the Etihad. I will definitely be watching that from start to finish. I wish you all the best of luck for Matchday 9 and the rest of the tournament. I'll see you very soon for more FPL and news fantasy content. Keep your eyes peeled for the best wildcard and team selection videos in the next couple of days, and another deadline stream on Friday.